Having foiled a lunatic bad guy in an LA high-rise, Officer Jack Traven is once again face-to-face with bomb nut Howard Payne, but this time there's a bomb on a bus. If it goes below 50 miles an hour, it goes up in flames. Cinematographer turned first-time director Jan de Bont brought his A-game to Speed, a white-knuckle workout in the mould of Die Hard with a simple concept and a great cast, which sped all the way to the top of the box office. My name is Luke, and the hotshots with me are Matt.
I'm going to go home, have some sex.
And Westy.
I'm going to rip your fucking spine out, I swear to God.
All the right movies are staying above 50, held hostage at the whim of a madman. Hi everyone, welcome back to All the Right Movies, a podcast with some big, round, hairy cojones.
Oh, that's disgusting, but lovely.
Yep.
If you couldn't tell by that, we are talking about the king of all Die Hard on a ... films. It is Speed.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Now, before we get behind the wheel, we're going to let you know about the incredible content that you can listen to by becoming an All the Right Movies Patreon supporter.
Lovely.
As per. For new listeners, what you're listening to now is our classic podcast. We release a classic show every 2 weeks, and only the most recent 20 episodes are available for all to listen.
Mm-hmm.
The rest, over 70 podcasts, that's a hell of a long time, a lot of effort.
Oh, yeah.
They are reserved in our podcast archive for our patrons. And if you're looking for action movies, you know, we've got the likes of Predator, First Blood, Terminator 2, Point Break, obviously, and many, many more in there. We've also produced over 55 podcasts exclusive to Patreon only, and we create a brand new monthly podcast only for our patrons, our iconic, I'd say iconic, double feature show.
I would agree with you.
Yeah, I think it's justified by now.
There's certainly icons featured on it.
Well, yeah, there you are.
Us three, for example.
Yeah.
Always takes a left turn when I don't expect it to.
Also, you get to vote on the films that we cover, the scores that they get as well. So a load of 5-star movie content. If you do like this show, you'll love being an ATRM patron. Head over to patreon.com/alltherightmovies to get immediate access. You can also subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts so you get access to our complete classic podcast archive. So if you can spare the dough, it'd be much appreciated because it allows us to continue firing on all fronts. Thank you very much,
It really
everybody.
does. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Any help
really
is
do.
really, really appreciated.
It's money due us. That's what it is.
It is, yeah. No die packs or anything, though.
No.
You'll be fine.
Yeah.
You get bang
3.7
for your
million.
buck. Literal bang for your buck.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to it then, Westy. This was your choice. So, pop quiz, hotshot.
Hey,
Why do you want to talk about Speed?
why not?
Classic. The classic refrain.
The classic. Why not? Next. I mean, it's 30 years old this year. Can you believe it? I mean, I remember when I first saw it, I got it on a terrible copy on VHS from school, and it was fucking horrible copy, but I loved it. I remember I just watched it over and over again, just like when Jack puts that film on loop, it was the same for me, but just this 2-hour loop of this film, I was like, this is amazing. I'm 13 years old, and Sandra Bullock's in this, and look at her, and look at Keanu Reeves in this, and that's what I want to do when I grow up, and wow, this is so exciting. It was just like that. It was just one of them, because I was just loved Lethal Weapon growing up, and I just loved that kind of vibe, loved Die Hard, obviously, and this was just new. I was like, this is new, and it's not something that my dad's seen yet, or anyone else has seen yet, and I'm seeing it before everybody else. And I think it was that excitement when I was a kid. I still put it on now and get like the opening credits. I still see the shit copy. I cannot see it like crystal clear. I can still see the grain all over it and all the noise.
Like the bleed and the colours.
Yeah. Like I could never read the titles, and I'm just pissed off that I can read them now. It's just like there's too much clarity to it.
Yeah.
But it just keeps coming back, and every time I put it on, I get that level of excitement again of just the first time I'd seen it, and it's always stuck with us, and it's one of them films that doesn't take itself too seriously at all. No. You can let yourself completely go with it. It keeps you engaged for the full run time. There's always something just to look at, to enjoy, to think about. I won't even say it's a guilty pleasure. I have absolutely no guilt in Light and Speed.
No,
I think it's a fantastic action film.
It is.
And it laid a lot of blueprints for films that were going to come after it, which we'll obviously talk about. So I honestly think it's very important to the genre. I know the genre is a little bit throwaway for most people when they're serious about cinema, but I think if you look at action cinema, it's a very, very important film when it landed, how it landed. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to talking about it. It's one of my real nostalgic favourites.
Wonderful. Yeah, to kind of piggyback on what you were saying there, Westy, I want to say this up front. Same.
Yeah, next.
What he said.
Yeah.
It isn't lost on me that you fellas are coming straight off the back of covering Ex Machina with John. A high concept, cerebral sci-fi tackling big existential themes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm the one doing the leave your brain at the door 90s action film.
But it was my choice, so don't paint yourself into a corner. But we did say that at the end of the Ex Machina episode.
Yeah.
It's like, what's next, blood? Speed. Yep.
Speed.
Yep.
There's a bomb on a bus. Yep, that's it.
We need a palate cleanser. Let's
Yeah,
do it.
no Westy theories on this one.
So maybe I need to up my game on the next one. Next podcast, I'm sure we'll be on one of the big thinkers in movies, Kurosawa, Kubrick,
yes.
Michael Bay, one
Yeah.
of those guys.
Yeah.
We've got Michael Bay.
One of those fellas.
Get Pearl Harbor in there.
Yeah.
But despite what you might think, I don't have too much of an affinity with this film. I do remember it coming out. I had that bad copy, Westy, and I've seen it a few times throughout the years, but it's never been an absolute favourite.
Right?
It's obviously noticeable because it stands head and shoulders above most in the die-hard knockoff subgenre. Probably
Yeah.
being a bit unkind saying that, but it's kind of lumped in with those films.
Yeah.
And it's well worth our time because it affirmed Keanu Reeves as a box office starlet, introduced us to the talents of America's sweetheart, Sandra Bullock.
Absolutely.
Woohoo!
All right. I can't praise her high enough.
She's wonderful.
Oh, she's just amazing.
And anything with Dennis Hopper playing a deranged, vengeful madman,
Definitely.
then I'm all in.
Absolutely.
Revisiting it for this, I think it's aged very, very well. The effects really stand up, and I think it's got glorious breakneck action. And for a near 2-hour film, it absolutely does not quit.
Nah, not at all.
Definitely doesn't.
And Matt, what about you?
Yeah.
Interested about this one?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's
we
not
are.
going to be like that, don't worry. This film was seemingly everywhere when I was a teenager, like you guys. Like, I was at school when this came out. And it was just like everybody was saying, have you seen that film about the bomb on the bus? Like, it can't go below 50 or blow up. And that's all you needed. Like, when you talk about like high concept ideas for thrillers, I think this is still the poster child. This is how you either get people to sign onto a project on audience in the cinema on a one-line plot summary alone. It can't be
elevator pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Westy says, it's 30 years old. That concept isn't old now, and I don't think that concept will ever get old. It's irresistible. It still works. It still resonates. Obviously, there's more to the film than being on the bus, which we'll talk about, both good and bad. But yeah, it's definitely one that we needed to tick off the list.
Very much okay. Speed was directed by Jan de Bont, written by Graham Yost, and produced by Mark Gordon for Mark Gordon Company. Shot on location in LA, it was distributed by 20th Century Fox to theatres on the 7th of June, 1994. It stars Keanu Reeves as Officer Jack Traven, Sandra Bullock as Annie Porter, Dennis Hopper as the scorned lunatic bomb nut Howard Payne, and Jeff Daniels as Jack's partner, Harry Temple.
Yep.
Okay, get ready for rush hour. We're headed to an LA high-rise for the opening scene of Speed.
The beginning.
Into the thick of the action straight away, and I just want to talk about these opening credits real quick.
Okay.
I said that the film's aged well, but I think these credits leave a lot to be desired.
I mean, yeah.
Very 90s. And that bleed that I was talking about that you mentioned in the fake copy, it still looks the same.
Yeah,
it
it
still
does,
look really cheap.
Yeah.
I find it very ironic that a film called Speed that runs at 1 hour and 55 minutes, kinetic energy coursing through it, and these titles are repetitive and slow and last about 3 minutes. But then a security guard gets a screwdriver in the head, which brings it all back on track very nice.
It's that font, isn't it? It's so
It's
blocky.
horrible.
Blue, like a blue gradient on it.
Yeah.
Horrible.
But I think it is impressive that it's all done in one take because you can see the countdown of the floors as it descends.
Yes.
And the credits were created using a 35-foot miniature elevator shaft and was filmed horizontally, which
Right. Okay.
is real good. I think it gives you the idea of de Bont's thirst for practical effects immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very much.
definitely. I mean, it's incredibly unnecessary for all that effort.
Yeah, it's outrageous. Yeah, at some cost as well.
Yeah, this is going to look amazing, right?
Not
yeah.
the worst thing in the film.
Yeah, no one notices.
But Westy, you're kicking us off with the opening scene here.
Do you know what I love about this opener? Just this introduction to these characters. And I know you mentioned a screwdriver in the head. Wonderful. We've set the bad guy up. And then there's just a fucking car launches itself over the camera.
That's ridiculous.
No, I'm going to do this all the way through this episode, so just prepare yourself. I'm just going to claw every inch of joy out of this film that I possibly can. That is fucking inspired. I'm sorry. That is wonderful.
It's ridiculous.
It just lands, and it's like the car's fucked and nobody cares, and it pulls over, and they get out the car and get suited up, and there's just that Michael Bay shot. That circular motion of the camera that's coming all the way around them. You can just tell the energy involved in this already. It's just palpable. It's absolutely wonderful. You're just like, fucking hell, slow down. Just like eating 10 sugar cubes and then just trying to sit still. It's like, whoa. And then we're in the lobby and Jack's just like, yeah, the basement. He's just like quipping about shit. Like, what's going to stop this? And they all look great. All their outfits are just great. And they've got like the mics and stuff and the guns. And I'm like, oh, I want to do that. That's great. Imagine turning up for work by a jump. And then just like
I don't know
jokes.
how it happens.
I don't know. It's not like it's San Francisco and they've got all the hills.
No.
It's just, it makes no sense in LA just to fly over the top.
Jeff Daniels doing that as well.
Yeah. But there's no reaction to them. Like, they're getting out the car and they just straight to the boot. Yeah. You must be thinking, have you going to fuck this car? There's got to be some kind of dialogue, but there's none whatsoever.
Nothing.
They're straight into it. And you're just like, right, okay, I get this now, right? You get the vibe immediately. You're like, it's not going to take itself too seriously. Yes, it's an action film. Yes, it's pushing reality.
Already.
To the edge. It's like,
5
right,
minutes
okay,
in.
yeah, 5 minutes. You've got them lovely credits, and then this. She's pretty much exactly the same as Johnny Utah here. He's like, Harry volunteers to, it's the same as we'll work the drop car. It's exactly the same moment.
Yeah, it is.
And you just think, right, well, I know where I am with Reeves. That's Jeff Daniels. Wonderful. Right, I know where I am here. This is great. What a setup. Right, let's just see where this goes. It's balls to the wall immediately. But that car flying over that camera, man, I hope that's the last thing I see before I die.
Ludicrous. Daniels.
Yeah. What was Westy's last words? Speed, opening.
Speed opening. What, the credits? Not the credits.
Mate, that car would only be better if it was the one from Dumb and Dumber. Imagine that game flying over the dog ears flapping around.
Mud cuts. Jeff Daniels in there, just turning around to Reeves in the back seat. Who got the foot long? It'd be amazing.
Yeah, I really like this introduction to the characters as well, so I'm going to pick up from there because I love the scene you get with them in the elevator shaft where they're debating what to do. And I think, we're going to mention this quite a few times, obviously, but it's very Die Hard, I think, this setting. It does look like Die Hard here.
Oh, very much.
But it's really that development of the relationship of these two that you can tell they've just got this complete trust in each other. And there's definitely this sense that Harry still feels like he's a mentor to Jack, which in return, I think that just amuses him. And they've just got this real easy chemistry going on between each other, and I really like that. And what I also like is when Harry asks Jack that question, you're at the airport, he's got a hostage, what do you do? Because I think your immediate thought when you hear that is kind of to roll your eyes and go, okay, right, well, you've just told me what the ending's going to be then, haven't you? Why would you bring that up if that's not going to be hugely important later? So I think it's actually really clever that it undercuts that because, yes, it does come up later, but not at the end, literally in about 5 minutes' time. And that feels like that should be on the nose to come up that quickly. But because I think we're used to seeing foreshadowing like this, thinking, oh, they'll come right at the end. I think it's actually quite clever how they play it out so quickly instead.
Yeah, I like that. I really like that set piece when Jack has the idea to connect the crane to the elevator. They're on the roof and the music's thundering along. I mean, it's all pretty outrageous stuff.
It's fantastic. We just take them out of the equation. Fucking yes. How does he know that's up there? That's not one of them on every building, surely.
I know.
It's so good.
Great point break. And Harry's kind of like the classic reserve, reluctant partner. Jack's the maverick cop with a ridiculous plan. But I think the moment that confirms that you're in good hands and that Speed isn't going to be just another by-the-numbers actioner is this moment where Jack and Harry save the hostages.
Yeah.
I think there's genuine threat in this moment. You never know if one of them will fall to their doom or be sliced in half as they're crossing that divide for safety.
That's the fear, isn't it? It's like,
It's great. And I think that de Bont has tight control over this scene, and the coverage he gets in a tight space makes it all very claustrophobic. And when you're shouting at the TV at that woman to get out of there at the end, you know that you're bought in.
Yeah.
It's great.
Lighting's great as well. It's all just red.
Yeah, very good. So overall, a great opening scene, which I think can be forgotten about because Speed is kind of in your mind's eye all about the bus.
Yeah. Very much.
And by the end, our heroes have saved the day with Howard Payne exploding into oblivion. Or is he? Following the action-packed opening, Harry and Jack are commended for their efforts and all is well. We're picking up the action on a sun-drenched early morning in LA where Jack is about to have a very, very bad day.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, you're going to kick us off here.
I am. The key thing to enjoying speed is don't worry about it too much. Don't worry about
Get that on the poster.
That's the best thing you've ever said. Guys, just don't worry about it too much, man. Just fucking enjoy it.
Don't worry about it too much. All the right movies.
It's sort of the point. You're so right.
Don't worry about that. It's fine.
Oh, God. That's absolutely blasted me, that. Jesus Christ. The language used, the key to speed. This is your way in, lads. Just don't worry about it.
All right.
Okay. Come on. Jesus Christ, that was good. Okay.
Genius, Matt.
Fantastic.
It's true because it just hit me when I was watching like this scene of Jack in the morning because you're thinking, hang on, how does this all hang together? Like Jack is so close to that first bus blown up. How did Howard know he was going to be there? And he's also close enough to the phone that he can hear it ringing and he would answer in the first place. If just one of those things doesn't work, then the whole thing falls apart. Like, yeah. Don't worry about it.
If he doesn't forget his muffin, like he's not going to get there, and the time's going to be different. So you forget his muffin, so he's not next to the bus.
Has to forget the muffin, yeah.
And then Payne's like 2 years that elevator job, 2 years on the elevator job, but he can do this in about 7 days. Or so.
And what does he do for 2 years?
2 years on an elevator job. That looks fairly straightforward compared to this.
Yeah. So like say that it's just such a key thing because you're like, yeah, okay, I'm going to go with this, and it's fine. And then I think it just segues into this really nice intro for Annie and the rest of the passengers. I really like that introduction to Alan Ruck. Like, what a knob. Like, totally invading her personal space, making it all about him. First time in LA. No, I live here. No, mine. Oh, that's funny. You heard me wrong. Like, just the worst person to be stuck on a bus with. And I think this is when you first see how good Bullock's comic delivery is. You know, oh, you know what? I got gum in my seat. Gum.
Gum.
In his face, yeah. That was Bullock's idea to introduce that.
Yeah.
Just to avoid the character, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, she's really funny. And it's a scene just full of nice little character details. You can already see one of the passengers in the background. He's already looking quite twitchy. We know that's going to pay off. The fact that Annie says how much she misses her car makes it just that little bit more believable that she'll be okay behind the wheel of the bus. And I'm assuming it's no coincidence that the bus is 25-25. Obviously, add that together and you get 50. So, it's a really good scene, but like I say, just don't worry about it.
Yeah, fine. Okay.
Wise words, Matt, and you can adapt that into any part of your life, I suppose.
Wonderful.
You absolutely can. Don't worry about it.
Absolutely can. Yeah, words to live by.
I think it's a strange choice to have Annie smoking before she gets on that bus.
It is.
I'm not moralising or anything like that. I just don't know why she is.
Yeah.
It's a very specific choice for the character, which is never referred to again.
Yeah, it is.
It's quite early 90s, though, isn't it?
Early 90s, but maybe something that played a part in previous drafts of the screenplay, because there's a lot of them.
You could read it. Oh, yeah, it's very cut and paste, but we'll get to that with the writing. So after he's spoken on the phone, after we've been introduced to the guys on the bus, Jack's obviously on his way to get on the bus. So he commandeers a car from Glenn Plummer. As Maurice is a fucking joy.
Oh, he's wonderful.
Absolutely wonderful. Obviously, he's in Menace to Society as well, which I knew from. And he's in the sequel as well as the same character.
Yeah.
Probably the only good thing about the sequel, which we'll get on to. But he's going to take the phone. It's absolutely
that's
brilliant.
good. That's really funny.
Good. And that jump onto the bus where his feet hit the road and drag a little bit. I'm like, fucking hell, that, okay, this is
terrifying.
Real. But the bit for me is when, if you're driving a bus, don't worry about it, but if you're driving a bus and someone gets in front of you and writes bomb on bus and it flies and hits the windscreen and you can read that, you hit the fucking brakes immediately. Like, immediately, you don't just go, let's just think about my life and just slowly release the gas pedal and there's a bomb on, but all right. And it's just one of them things where you just think, this is ludicrous. But it's like, no, stay above 50. As you think it, the film counteracts your thought.
Yeah.
And it does this all the way through. You're like, there's no way that could happen. And then it shows the speedometer showing it's not below it. Yeah, all right, okay. It's just having fun with the audience, and I think it really plays with it. And them bits are just absolutely wonderful. Just, that the pace is there. It's just breakneck speed. He's banging on the way. He's like, this guy's really got a hard on for this bus. Like, you wouldn't let him on. And you're like, oh, yeah, okay. That you feel some kind of real terror there.
Yeah, there's a bit of danger there.
Yeah, this sense of like, don't arm the bus, don't go above 50. Jesus Christ. And it pulls you through it, even when you watch it for like the 100th time. God knows how many times I've seen it, but you still get to that point where you're just like, oh, I wish it didn't go over 50 and it just ended.
Stopped.
It would just be so much relief. My anxiety would just be so grounded, but it doesn't work like that. And I think that's the whole point of this opening, is just to show Jack's determination, and then to show exactly what we're up for with, the way this is shot, the way this is paced, and we're in for the ride.
Yeah, Jack's determination, when he gets up close to the bus for the first time and he bangs on the door and the glass smashes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was unplanned. It was just Keanu Reeves up to his old tricks.
Oh, really? He's got such an energy for this role. Yeah. He's just so committed to this role.
Oh, he's just great.
A joy to watch.
Looks great.
Yeah, great, Nick.
And in her review of the film, Janet Maslin pondered why Jack didn't just shit out the tyres of the bus before it got to 50, thus saving us all the bother. And years later, writer Graham Yost said that he hadn't thought about this, but if he did, he would have had the Jag driver take Jack out when he pulled his gun, not yet realising he was a cop.
Yeah, I mean, come on, Janet.
Yeah, get on board.
Give us a break.
Yeah. Don't worry about
it. Westy, you'd been happy. It doesn't go
yeah,
above
there
50.
it is. But wouldn't the bus have tipped and killed people? Would it be like the start of Final Destination or something? It would have been
definitely spell out of control, yeah.
There's a couple of safety issues with that, I'm sure.
That's not a cut and dried solution for me.
It's not, Janet.
No.
Yeah, great. I mean, action set pieces, absolutely incredible, though, jumping onto that bus.
Yeah.
Gets on that bus, he tries to defuse the situation, but doesn't say specifically what's wrong, because obviously he doesn't want hysteria. But it completely blows up in his face when the guy pulls the gun. Mm. And I think line delivery has often been a problem for Keanu Reeves.
Do you think?
Think so. Don't worry about it, though, Westy.
Don't worry about it. I'm not. I'm sound now.
And I think this is a very good example of it. When he pulls his gun, he says, I don't know you, man. Let's not do this.
Yeah.
I don't care about your crime. So whatever you did, it's cool now.
I'm sure that you're sorry.
That's ridiculous. As if that guy's going to fall for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool now. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. I'm not a cop right now. See?
But I think it is a believable plot point, and he needs to get behind the wheel for the rest of the film.
Yeah.
I think it's believable that Ortiz thinks he's a tough guy who can take down the gunman.
Yeah.
Which means that the driver has to take one in the back. So the mechanics are going from A to B in the narrative work for me here.
Yes.
One thing that I'm uncertain about is, it's definitely a nitpick. But why does everybody know the driver's name? Annie does when she gets on, even though she's only just lost her license.
Yeah.
And so does Helen. When he gets shot, she shouts out, Sam. How many bus drivers' names have you ever known in your life?
Well, that's a good point.
None. None is the answer.
He just works every morning, and they get on the bus every morning to go to work. I don't know. He's a sweetheart, Sam, to be fair.
And he doesn't know, because she's only getting the bus because she's lost her license. So
yeah,
how does she know he's
and he's
Sam?
How does she know his name?
He's like, he pretends not to stop, and he's
he's having a great time.
He's having a good time. Everyone knows Sam. He's probably one of them ones who just like reads out like where they're going past and all that kind of stuff.
If you look to your right.
Yeah. Well, we just didn't get a chance to delve into his character because he's just read bomb on bus, so he's a little bit out of sorts. Yeah,
out of sorts. Don't worry about it, Sam.
Don't worry about it, Sam. Just crack on.
But what I do like here is Reeves, when Jack has to reveal that there's a bomb on the bus, and he does it resigned and reluctantly. I think he's really good in that moment. Mm-hmm. But there's a terrible line by the guy who says, yeah, there's a bomb on the bus. Some funny joke, man.
Yeah.
Why would Jack jump on a bus traveling 50 miles an hour, reveal he's a cop, and have a gunfight with a baddie just to crack some cheeky gags about a bomb? Yeah. It's mental. The driver's being shot, bro. He's in your arms. This ain't no time for jokes.
Exactly. Yeah, real funny, man. It's like, yeah, actually, that was a joke. I'm getting off the next 2 stops.
Yeah,
Cheers.
See you later.
Drop.
I'll leave the driver with a bullet hole, just with you guys.
Real funny joke, man.
Crazy.
Yeah. And believe it or not, Reeves used what he learned from his research on Point Break as the basis of his character. No.
And
the LAPD said the thing that came off is their concern for human life. We get the bad guys and we get to save the good guys.
Yeah, I can certainly feel that in his interactions with the passengers. He's all like polite, ma'am,
yeah,
sir.
Yeah.
Very polite. And I think that comes across well.
It does. It's very black and white. There's no grey area to this character whatsoever, is there?
No, there isn't.
Good and evil, and he is good.
Save the good people, kill the bad guy.
Kill the bad guys. Yeah. No regret over that.
So we're all in place. Jack's on the bus, Annie behind the wheel, and staying above 50. What could possibly go wrong?
The director.
A veteran of movie making, but this was Jan de Bont's first time in the hot seat. Westy, an impressive debut?
It is an impressive debut because, I mean, it's shot by a cameraman, it's shot by a DP, so he knows what he's doing, and the camera is a character in this film, and that's what I always enjoy when I watch movies like this, especially action films where he's not scared to move that. He's got such control over the frame. There's just a real confidence to this for a debut, and I mean, coming off the back of Die Hard, I mean, he DP Lethal Weapon 3, he knows what he's doing. It's got a very similar kind of look to that, and a lot of these are lifted. There's the gap in the freeway, which we'll talk about later on, but that happens in Lethal Weapon 3. There's all these things where it's just he knows, and it seems very safe for him. It seems like ground that he's covered before, but he's bringing his own style to it, almost his own kind of voice to these situations. He's not really revered as like an original action director because he isn't an original action director. I think he's just taken what really works, the beats of an action film, the blueprint of an action film, and mixed them around a little bit. It's just kind of like taking a jigsaw and he's just moving the pieces in a kind of different place. But you've seen the jigsaw before, but he's doing it in his way, which is really entertaining because he's got a lot of pace. And I mean, I love Twister. I think there's a lot of pace to that. Yeah. This is really, really good. Speed 2, it's ignorable. And I think Jan de Bont was instrumental to some of the sequences in Die Hard. Absolutely instrumental. I agree. And he brings everything to it from an action point of view. It's everything that you want. It's just, there's emotion there. There's some real sense of fear at times, but it's just when it breaks away and these set pieces are just a start, middle and end, it's a Jan de Bont film. He's in control of it. And that's what I really enjoy about this film. It's really confident. It's really safe, but at the same time, he's having a lot of fun. And so are we.
Yeah, we certainly are. I think he makes great use of his budget. Big explosions, set pieces are all impressive, still impressive.
Great pacing as well. He doesn't slow down for a second.
No, not at all.
I think if you're de Bont and you come into this, like the central idea is such a great one, such a killer idea, you'll want to do it for that alone. But I think the smartest thing, or one of the smartest things he does, despite how fundamentally ludicrous it is, he does keep it grounded in some kind of reality. And I think partly how he does that is some really good location shooting. Because I don't want to be, one of those guys banging on about how things were better in the past and films are all rubbish today, because I don't think that's true.
Get on with it, Grandad.
Just yelling at clouds in the sky. But I do think if Speed gets made today, it gets made with green screen. It gets made with stagecraft, which is this new process where you have a huge video wall that the actors and the props in front of. Disney used it for streaming, Matt Reeves used it for the Batman. But here you've got, for all intents and purposes, de Bont trying to base this in reality, which is so much more effective. So that bus really is traveling along freeways. When it drives into the airport, okay, it's not LAX, but it's still a real airport all the same. So when you have people hanging out of the door, when you've got Jack underneath the bus trying to disarm the bomb, it's very cleverly done because it's got that real sense of, God, this is traveling at least 50 miles an hour, even though it's not. And it's just got a real visceral thrill to it because it's not fake in that sense. That's real tarmac. People are nearly smacking the heads off. You can practically smell the rubber on the tires smoking as it keeps going and going and going.
Yeah.
They were out in the real world filming this. So I think everything around that bus sequence, the opening and the end, doesn't quite have that same thrilling impact to it because that's obviously more studio based. But when you're on that bus, you're definitely on the bus. And I think you can tell that's the part that de Bont really wanted to do more than anything
that's
else.
A bit he got his teeth into, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Talking about real locations, feeling it under your fingernails because of the gang violence in LA during the mid-90s. Gunshots could be heard throughout filming as the bus circled the outer reaches of LA County.
Right. Jesus.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
I think you can see a natural Die Hard influence. Matt, you mentioned it, particularly in those elevator scenes at the start, which could easily fit into that film.
Oh, easily, yeah.
And what I think de Bont does remarkably well is his use of single locations. The film's like an action movie theme park, 3 rides in one, 3 locations only.
Yeah.
The elevator and the train bookend the film, but Speed is all about that bus. That has to have an identity and play a big part in the plot.
Yeah.
There were a total of 13 buses during production used in various states, exterior, interior shots, one with a hidden stunt driver on the second row, etc. One of them sold in 2018 for over $100,000. So you can see how much impact it's had on kind of the movie-going landscape. It's a big character in the film.
It's money well spent for me, that. That's how I get to work.
It's in your yard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because de Bont felt that the bus was as much a character in the film as the cast members, and so he spent a lot of time casting it until what he decided on was an old Santa Monica bus line model. And he also felt because of its importance in the narrative, it needed to have a fitting ending, almost give it an arc, which is why he conceived of the collision with the plane, and he bought that for $80,000.
Wow.
Dear me. Wow, I mean, it's a big explosion.
It is.
A real impressive explosion.
It's really impressive, yeah.
It's great, yeah. The bus, really is a character in the film. And having largely one location, I think, could get boring very quickly.
Yeah.
But he infuses the film one set piece after another to keep things moving. In the script, that would be minimal dialogue, and he's got to create tension and keep things going from a visual point of view, which I really think he does.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a point in the film where it starts to sag at all.
No,
I think it's breakneck from beginning to end, balls to the wall.
absolutely.
I also think that you only think about the bus when you think of Speed, but it's only in there for around half of the runtime.
Mhm.
I think it's really effective filmmaking to plant that in your mind.
Yeah.
You think of Speed, you think of the bus.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I also think it's quite a feat just to get the footage to match, considering there's scenes where there are like two vehicles driving side by side on an LA freeway and cast members going from one to the other. Just to get the dialogue to sync is an achievement.
Yeah, yeah. in
And you really
itself,
get the sense that this is all shot in one location, which it was. For the integrity of the film, it has to be as realistic as possible. There's no shaky background out of the window. You get that in there, you're done for.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when it cuts between the interiors and the exteriors, it's just getting off the freeway.
Yeah.
It's Sandra Bullock on the interior, and then it cuts to the exterior. It's definitely not her, but it doesn't matter because where the bus is, the location of it is exactly the same.
It is, yeah.
From what
it
you're saying,
matches.
so it's just the editing is just absolutely perfect.
It is. It's
So
great.
to match
editing.
them shots up is, I mean, that's a feat in itself.
So on that point, we've got our first Patreon question.
Okay.
And this is a benefit you can get your hands on. If you sign up, you get to ask us a question for the film that we're covering.
Yep.
Our first of the day comes from Daniel Block. Hello, Daniel.
Hello, Daniel.
Daniel says, pop quiz, hot shots. Speed was influential in being the first huge hit action film with a fixed set and high concept. Later equivalents include things like Phone Booth and Buried.
Mm-hmm.
Which do you think is the best limited location thriller which followed in the slipstream of Speed? Westy, do you want to take that first?
I've got a couple
Sure.
on the slipstream. I think Snakes on a Plane is probably one that springs to mind first. It's pretty much forgotten about. That was huge when it came out. Everyone was raving about that.
It
I think
was,
that's got a very similar kind of vibe.
Ridiculous concept.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous as well. It's a ridiculous concept.
Yeah.
One location, okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
Panic Room, I think, was
Oh, yes.
a one that stuck out for me. Cube was one that stuck out for me. Pontypool, I think, is a
Brilliant.
great horror film in one location. And I really enjoyed Moon, which felt like it was just kind of in one or two rooms with Sam Rockwell. That was, the breadth and they go outside and inside, but I think that's kind of similar to Speed. But he's mentioned Phone Booth, which is probably the most obvious one.
Yeah.
Of like, how do you do the opposite of Speed? We'll do Phone Booth, fair enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, Snakes on a Plane for me was really surprising. So ridiculous premise, but very well done.
Brilliant. Yeah, well, I'm going to throw in a curveball here, use artistic license, and throw a thriller / horror movie into the mix.
Never.
I know,
What a shock.
Daniel, you asked for thrillers, but, horror thriller.
Wow.
And it's one that you mentioned, Westy. It's Cube, the Canadian horror movie from
Oh, nice.
1997.
Okay, great.
Great. I think it's a stretch to say that Speed influenced it, but for the purposes of this segment, we'll say it did.
Yeah, maybe the credits.
Yep.
It's about a group of strangers who wake up in a square room not knowing how they got there, and they work together to make it from room to room, trying not to be killed in the process by deadly booby traps. Kind of like a horror version of The Crystal Maze for all of our UK-based listeners.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
It makes great use of its ultra-low budget with incredible set design and really inventive prop work. I think it's a really chilling concept, very claustrophobic, and well worth searching out if you haven't.
Yeah, it's a really good film.
Great film. What about you, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything that came after Speed that's as good as it, but I think there are some that
In
are
any
worth...
genre.
Yeah, in any genre ever. Cinema ended after Speed for me.
Fucking right.
All
Don't worry
downhill.
about it.
There were a few I thought worth mentioning, though. Two set at sea, Open Water, which is the one about the couple who go scuba diving, but the boat kind of ends up forgetting them, and they end up stuck in the shark-infested sea.
Very good.
It does not end well, I'll just say that.
Nope.
Also, All Is Lost, which is a Robert Redford film from a few years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's literally only him in the film, and he's just on his little sailing yacht.
Mm-hmm.
There was a film from 2009 called Lebanon, which is a war film, and it's all set within the confines of a tank.
Right. Oh, I've heard of that. I've not seen it.
Yeah,
though.
that one's good. That one's
Yeah.
effective. And then Frozen, not that one. There was a film called Frozen in 2010. But some people get trapped on a ski lift, which it's not brilliant, but it's quite an interesting film. I thought that one worked pretty well.
I enjoyed that one, obviously. Some nice picks there then. Well done, fellas.
Nice
so we've got Snakes on a Plane, Cube, and...
Frozen, but not that one.
Frozen.
But not that one. Just let it go.
But not that one. Brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, we have brought it up, but this was one of the very first movies that got labelled as Die Hard on a ...
Yeah.
And so it's very fitting that Die Hard director John McTiernan was first choice to direct, but he turned it down precisely for the reason he just thought it was too much like Die Hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fair cop, isn't it?
It really is.
McTiernan did point them in the direction of his DP on Die Hard, Jan de Bont, but before de Bont came on as director, others were approached, including Walter Hill and, outrageously, Quentin Tarantino.
Wow.
Who only had Reservoir Dogs under his belt at that point.
Was Annie driving the bus with her feet up on the wheel?
Like Death Proof.
Yeah.
Naturally, he declined, but in 2009 he listed Speed as one of his favourite 20 films since his debut in 1992.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, it's right up Tarantino's alley, this kind of
It
film.
is, yeah. It's
Loves
really LA as well. It's an LA film.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Michael Bay was desperate to direct the script, I can imagine. Yeah.
Of course he would.
At the time, he was largely known for music videos and commercials, but Fox rejected him because they wanted someone with more movie experience.
Yeah, I mean, this is Michael Bay's career in a nutshell.
Yeah. This would be his absolute baby. He's remade this every single film.
When de Bont was first given the script for Speed, it came with a caution that it's about a bus. I mean, if you want to get somebody excited about directing a screenplay, you probably want to make it sound a little sexier.
Yeah, just a touch. Yeah.
Yeah, and de Bont had worked as a cinematographer for years, working with Paul Verhoeven back in his native Netherlands, and then on American movies like All the Right Moves, The Jewel of the Nile, Black Rain, and, of course, Die Hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, of course, yeah. He was moved to take up the hot seat based on his experience as a DP. He said, quite often, when I worked with other directors, I felt like, oh my God, I would have done that differently. And at one point, it became a frustration to me.
Yeah.
Very few DPs move from cinematographer to director, do they?
Very few, yeah.
Yeah.
I can only really think of Barry Sonnenfeld.
Sonnenfeld, yeah.
But I'm sure there are others.
Didn't Kaminsky make a couple of films?
Wally Pfister did.
Oh yes, I think they kind of dip their toe in, don't they?
Yeah.
And then run straight back out.
Yeah, no, Wally Pfister did that one with Johnny Depp, Transcendence or something.
Transcendence,
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and then he never worked with Nolan again after that. That was it. Boom.
You're dead to me.
Yeah.
So with de Bont in place, the script was with Paramount originally, but they ended up passing, and it eventually made its way over to Fox, who only took it if there were changes made. Originally, the script was set on the bus alone, which Fox didn't like.
Right.
And de Bont came up with the elevator idea at the start, inspired by his experience working on Die Hard, where he was stuck in an elevator during production and had to be rescued by the fire department through a hatch at the top.
Right.
It just looks like Die Hard.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. So de Bont was all about making the action look as real as possible and use as many practical effects as possible, as we've discussed.
Yeah.
You also like to include the actors in the effect shot, saying whatever happens, you get the sense that there's more in the shot than the effect, which is exactly what we were talking about, just the way that all the shots kind of link together, the exteriors, the interiors, everyone was there for everything, so it really shows.
Yeah, I really like that shot of the exploding bus at the start with Reeves in shot reacting to the explosion. Yeah. That's really immersive.
Yeah, when he tries to get closer, he's like, it's the best bit of acting in the whole film. Oh, shit.
Yeah, I think he does something really, really special in that he makes you believe this fairly unbelievable plot.
Yeah.
No, definitely.
He only used computer-generated effects in 6 scenes. Obviously, CGI was in its infancy at this point, and he said there were more visual effects that were later composited rather than the special effects that we know and love today.
Yeah, I think he's more comfortable with the visual effects as opposed to a special effect.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So despite being a rookie director, Jan de Bont encapsulated 90s action movies with Speed, almost certainly his greatest cinematic achievement.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
The cast.
An important cast in the 90s movie landscape. We've got Reeves as the action star, Bullock's introduction into the mainstream, and a rejuvenated Dennis Hopper in the cast. And Westy, you're going to take it away with the star performer.
I am. I'm going to go for Keanu Reeves because I find it wonderful to watch something like this, and he's not great in it. And that's the first thing you go, he's not great, is he? His line delivery's passable. He's a great action star, but some of it he's just a little bit overly excessive. He's just a little bit overly excited. He's like a dog with two dicks most of the time. He's just running everywhere, just really, really effervescent about saving lives. And it should be pissed off, but it's Keanu Reeves, isn't it? So you can't diss the guy. He's a fucking sweetheart. He's just one of the nicest human beings on the planet.
Oh, he is.
And he's really forged a career out of just being the same character over and over and over again.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely baffling. But this for me is one of the standouts as like a dumb, almost rookie cop, but he's in this kind of elite unit. He's gung-ho and he's American about it without being really American about it. Do you know what I mean? It's like the American all-action star. And he knows that. It's never really said, and it doesn't explore his psyche. It doesn't explore kind of, I woke up alone. It's most you know about his personal life. You don't. It doesn't delve into that. It's not bothered about that at all. It's just about this guy's motivation is to be a good person. This guy's motivation is to be morally sound. And you cannot watch a character like that and not be enamored by it. You cannot watch a character like that and go, fucking, I wish I was a bit more like that. I'm gonna get a muffin every morning and a coffee, and I'm gonna converse with the bus driver, because if he came in and started giving me shit in like 8 o'clock in the morning when I'm getting a coffee before I start work, I'm gonna tell him to go and fuck himself. I've been out the night before. Oh, so on telly, yeah, you look fat. You know what I mean? I'm not in the fucking mood, but Reeves is he's like, have a good one, Bob, and he's just in a great. I need to be more like that. I think the chemistry he has with Bullock is wonderful. There's just something there that there's this realism to it. You know, it's like guts will get you so far and then they'll get you killed. And he doesn't understand what that means yet. And that's kind of what the film's about, is that he's almost like a superhuman in it. He'll do absolutely anything that needs to be done to be morally correct and just be the good person.
Yeah, I mean, the role, I don't know any other role in films that is just this heroic.
Yeah, there's nothing else.
The only thing that's missing is a halo from his head.
Exactly. Yeah.
He's
wonderful.
So virtuous.
He is.
It's unbelievable. Like morally ambiguous. That is not something in his dictionary. He doesn't know what that means.
No. He doesn't know what ambiguous means. He's not ambiguous about anything. He's a Casio G-Shock in human form.
Tough, rugged,
and reliable. Solar powered.
Wonderful. Far from being first choice for the role of Jack, Keanu Reeves was way, way down the list of potentials. Stephen Baldwin was first choice.
Stephen Baldwin.
Right,
yeah. Okay, right.
But Baldwin turned it down because he thought it was too much like Die Hard. Now, I don't know what universe there is that Baldwin can be this choosy.
No, even
it's ridiculous. Stop the bus, you fucking cocksucker, motherfucker.
Then after this, the list is endless, but the main targets were Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks, Woody Harrelson, and Wesley Snipes.
Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
In 94.
Yeah.
Forrest Gump.
Yeah, well, he would nail the running, to be fair.
Yeah, that's true enough.
He actually wouldn't stop, would overtake the bus.
Yeah, I can't see Hanks in that get-up, you know, with all the wires and the mics, and he's like underneath the bus, like stripping the wire off it. I cannot see it.
No, not at all.
Yeah, but Jan de Bont had liked what he saw from Reeves in Point Break and said, Keanu was vulnerable on the screen. He's not threatening to men because he's not that bulky, and he looks great to women.
Well, there you are. Yeah, and Graham Yost said about Reeves coming in to talk about the part. He drove up on a motorcycle at Disney. He's 6 foot and already had a cool haircut and was long and lean. He'd done Point Break, so he knew he could handle a gun and be cop-like.
Long and lean, yeah.
Long and lean, imagine, yeah.
Well, Reeves wasn't too thrilled about coming back to the action movie well so close to Point Break, but de Bont convinced him by saying that he could do as many stunts as possible. And de Bont credits a lot of the film's success down to the realism of the action.
Very much. And despite having a cool haircut, de Bont wanted Reeves to shed his dude persona and asked him to shave his head for it. And this freaked the studio out, who had signed Keanu because of his established movie stardom, and the hair was like an integral part of that. So they insisted that the whole production until it grew out a little bit. And de Bont said everyone at the studio was scared shitless when they first saw it.
I think it's a strong look, you know.
It's a really strong look.
Yeah.
It totally supports the character. It's just no nonsense. He doesn't care about himself, really. He's like, I'm just going to have something I don't have to fucking do because I'm too busy saving the fucking world. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. He looks great.
Yeah. And while shooting, River Phoenix, who was Reeves' great friend, he tragically died, and they'd worked together on I Love You to Death and My Own Private Idaho.
Oh, yes.
Reeves took the news particularly badly, saying later, I've never felt a thing like that before in my life. It was very sad and something beyond sad.
Yeah. Heartbreaker.
Yeah.
Well, to make it easier on Keanu, de Bont shifted the shooting schedule around so that Reeves could work on some easier scenes first, and when he wasn't shooting, he reportedly stayed in his trailer reading Hamlet.
Oh, I mean, for fuck's sake, give us a chance. Give the rest of the world a chance, Reeves, for fuck's sake. If one of you died, I would not be sitting reading Hamlet. I would be fucking mortal crying in the pub.
But then as production rumbled on, Keanu threw himself into the physical side of the role, as promised by de Bont, and reportedly he did 90% of Jack's stunts, including the one where he throws himself from the Jag onto the bus. Although for the one that's in the film, that was done by the stuntman.
Yeah, cuts, doesn't it? It takes it to the other side.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, great watch. So Jack wears a Casio G-Shock DW5600C, which has been discontinued by the time the film came out, but because of the film's success and the consumer demand for the watch, mainly mine, because I've got one. Casio put it back into production. But yeah, I do have one. And I bought one for my son for his 7th birthday because he wanted a speed watch.
I knew as soon as I saw that watch, I was thinking, that has got Westy written all over it.
It's my most worn watch. I just feel like I'll look at it, I see it's 8:05, and no matter who's around, I'm like, have a good one, Bob.
Reeves, along with Jeff Daniels, I almost said Paul Daniels, may as well have had Paul in there, to be honest. They both underwent SWAT training in prep for their roles. Reeves, I mean, I can totally understand why. Daniels, I think he wasted his time.
He did,
to be honest.
Yeah,
he could have been reading Hamlet instead, couldn't he?
Yeah.
So Reeves confirming his status as a sensitive 90s action hero with speed, and as Westy is confirmed, a dog with 2 dicks.
Yes.
Billed as the new Julia Roberts following the success of the film. Sandra Bullock, obviously, not Dennis Hopper.
Oh, I shouldn't have drank there.
Is she worthy of the new Julia Roberts tag for you, Matt?
Absolutely, she is. I mean, we just did a Patreon episode last month where we talked about favourite actresses. And I know Westy mentioned then Gravity, which is a massive Sandra Bullock film. But in general, I do feel I probably missed her off the list because she's one of those actresses where even in the worst film or in a bad film, she's still so watchable.
Yeah,
and there's so much likability she brings here. And, you know, this is definitely one of her best films, definitely one of her best performances. And when I watch her, I just get this like huge wave of nostalgia because it just brings me back to that time in the 90s where she just seemed to be everywhere. All of a sudden, you know, this, While You Were Sleeping, Demolition Man, The Net, A Time to Kill. She did have such a breakthrough, and you go back to this, and it's so easy to see why, like, straight away, like, instant presence. As I said before, just a really naturally gifted comic actress. That line about the gum, when Jack has punctured the fuel tank, you know, what, you thought you needed another challenge? Like, she just sells those types of lines really well. And, you know, like, it speeds, like, Annie is not the kind of character where we're going to dissect all the character nuances and her arc or the big dramatic moments. It's more, you know, the film needs a love interest for Jack. It needs someone for him to spark off. It needs someone to drive the bus who's never driven a bus before because that increases the peril in an actual bus driver. That's who Annie is. So if there's not a lot on the page, I think that just makes it even more impressive what Sandra Bullock does with it. And I would say she has great chemistry with Reeves, but I know at one point there was concern on set that the chemistry wasn't there. Apparently Reeves was a bit stiff and Bullock was tough.
He was.
Do you reckon?
Outrageous.
We've gone back to 1994 and we're in the playground with those guys.
We certainly are 13-year-old boys.
Wow.
Yeah. Reeves was a bit stiff and Bullock was tasked with getting him to loosen up, but Reeves took Bullock's antics as a come-on, told her he wasn't interested in any funny business, which she took offence to, but they did resolve it very quickly, and Reeves sent her some flowers as an apology. What did she do, though?
Yeah.
He doesn't want any funny business. What's he, a nihilist? No funny business. I believe in nothing.
Just think about that, Lebowski.
No funny business.
Yeah, I mean, years later, they did both admit that they held a mutual secret crush on each other. So I don't know what he's playing at.
No, neither do I. And much like Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock wasn't first choice for the part of Annie. She was pretty much an unknown quantity. She'd been in a few low-key films. She was a third lead in Demolition Man, but that hadn't been released when she was cast in Speed. Halle Berry was initially approached, but turned it down. At that point, the character of Annie was a paramedic driver.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, there were some big changes in this, like in the different iterations of the script.
But Yost's first choice was, of all people, Ellen DeGeneres, because at that point she was a comedian. She'd been in a few TV shows, and at this point in the script, Annie was a driver's ed teacher and was more of a comedy sidekick.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I can see that in that iteration.
Yeah.
I can see that. And Ellen claims that she was never officially approached for the role, but basically any actress in Hollywood at the time was considered, but they were serious about Kim Basinger and Meryl Streep.
Streep
in there.
Streep and Hanks.
Amazing.
Streep and Baldwin.
Oh, God, this could have been very different.
Yeah, but I think Bullock just completely charmed them in her audition.
Yeah.
To make it look more legit, she learned to drive a bus for real before filming started and nailed a bus driving test on her first go. So
nice.
If the roads dry up, Sandy, you can always drive on the LA freeway.
Absolutely, yeah.
But she was never in control of that bus when filming. It was controlled by a stunt driver either on the second row of the seats or on a roof of the bus.
Right.
Okay.
Wow.
I mean, that doesn't come across at all.
Doesn't
It
whatsoever.
looks like she
not.
is. It's really
Absolutely
surprising
does.
that she wasn't in control.
Yeah.
But of course, she
definitely.
wasn't because she's an actress.
Yeah. With everyone's life in her hands.
Yeah.
Stay on or get off. I don't know. Ask the guy upstairs.
So America's sweetheart confirmed for Sandra Bullock, who brings a natural warmth to the screen every
definitely.
time. Finally, the man who's not crazy, just eccentric. It's Dennis Hopper as Howard Payne. And my oh my. It's almost as if Hopper is in a different film here.
It is. I don't think he knows who else is in it.
Unbelievable.
He's just by himself and just... Is he in a two-shot?
I don't think so.
Maybe with Sandra Bullock at the
Sandra
end, but I
Bullock,
don't know. Yeah.
I mean, his tone is just well off the mark for this. There's no subtlety. He's just straight up and down crazy. No nuance, really. He's just mental.
No explanation, really.
No, when he makes his escape at the start, Jack says, "Give it up, you got nowhere to go." And he gives this ludicrous laugh before he scampers off. Yeah. I mean, that's just straight out of Batman, the TV show from the 60s. Crazy. I think his motivations aren't really clear either. I know that he's lost his thumb and he got a crappy retirement gift. But, didn't he know that when he was on the force?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Keanu knows that. He's
Harry
not going to go
knows
mental.
that. Yeah,
Harry
he's
knows
told
that.
him.
Yeah.
You get a shit pension and a cheap watch.
Cool.
Yeah. Fairly cheesy.
I mean, he is so over the top, like only Dennis Hopper can be.
Yeah.
But I do think it works. He raises the stake for Jack because we know it's going to take something extra special to take him down, making Jack's task near impossible. And I think that's all down to Hopper. I think a different actor wouldn't have been able to bring this level of maniacal energy.
No. But believable maniacal energy. It's a believable thing. It's like, but why?
I know why. It doesn't matter.
I don't understand.
I'm not saying he's the best actor in the world. It's just that he's uniquely Dennis Hopper, isn't he?
Yeah.
He is. He's very much unique, yeah.
It's the same kind of energy that he brought to Frank Booth in Blue Velvet.
Pretty much, yeah.
So for audiences who've seen him in that, we know that he's capable of absolutely anything.
Yeah.
A nod to Blue Velvet is when he's in the elevator at the start and he says, "Don't fuck with Daddy." It's something that Booth says in Blue Velvet, and I think in a much more disturbing way than this film.
Very much.
Horrible.
Yeah.
I like that all the way through. It feels like Payne is questioning Jack's intelligence. He knows he's a good cop, but I think he thinks he's a brain dead idiot who's no match for him. Some nice real world parallels, I think, of what people might have thought of Reeves then and potentially now.
Yeah, very possibly. He just plays on his physicality over his intelligence. He's like, we all know that Harry's the brains of the operation. I'm taking him out of there. So now you've got nothing but your physicality, which means nothing. But then again, he hasn't got full physicality because of that wound that he's got with his thumb being gone. So it plays into that. He's almost jealous of Jack, I think. He's jealous of Jack's physicality and what he can do.
Yeah. Good point.
And if he is more intelligent, he's a real threat. So he tries to dumb him down all the way through the film.
Yeah,
which
he
really
tries to
works.
undermine him. I like that.
Yeah.
And his reactions are priceless. When he gets the dye on his face and completely loses his shit, and he shuffles off screaming, "I'm coming for you, Jack!" Yeah. And when he notices the footage is being looped, it's hilarious. It's just a massive close-up of his face screaming, "No!" with his fingers.
It's ridiculous.
Just
what
one
of the worst.
Expect.
It's a favourite film of mine, but it's got one of the worst cuts I've ever seen. It's when he sees Jack getting the award and he's like, "Way to go, Jack, way to go." And it just cuts. He's just cuts, "Way to go, Jack, way to go." It's just like, let it play out, surely. But, it's great.
What did he do for them to do that cut?
Exactly, to have the cut there. What was after that?
Jesus. No.
So I think in a straight down the line action thriller, I think you need someone like Hopper in there to give it this absolutely crazy edge, lunacy, but I think it works unbelievably.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about like lunatic edge that Hopper brings. It was his idea to pick Jeff Daniels up by the nose in the elevator scene.
Just really strange.
It is really, well, De Bont thought it might look silly, but he relented after he realised it hurt like a son of a bitch.
Oh, I'm sure it would, but it's just a really odd choice.
It is a very strange choice.
For the character of Payne, De Bont said that Hopper really brought the character to life, which, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It was Hopper who developed the character's motivations beyond the ransom. De Bont said that when the bus blows up at the start of the film, you see his excitement over the fact that this thing that he actually made worked, and that deeply personal thing really set up the entire movie like it's a personal thing to him, and the loss of life means nothing, and he needs to be noticed. I think that comes across as well.
Yeah, I think it does. I think he said he was driven more by deranged scorn and obsession with bombs than the monetary gain was kind of secondary.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such an arbitrary figure that he's asking for, 3.7 million. I mean, I know it's his nest egg, but how did he come up with that number?
I don't know.
It's very strange.
Round it up, mate. Like,
yeah.
If they're going to give you that, they'll give you an extra 300 grand.
Call it 4.
Yeah, call it 4, aye.
Okay, so the end of our conversation on the cast brings the second Patreon question for Speed.
Okay.
This one is from Matthew Williams. Hello, Matthew.
Hello, Matthew.
Matthew says, if this film was made now, which actors do you think would work in key roles and on what form of transport would you have it set? Right. A similar question came from Stefan Rossi and Jacob Perry regarding remakes and what mode of transport. So it is a popular question.
Good question.
A very good question. Matt, do you want to take the reins?
I think this day and age would have to be an Uber, wouldn't it?
Brilliant.
Nice.
Some sabotages an Uber.
Like Collateral.
Yeah, like very much like Collateral, yeah. Or maybe one of those like delivery riders who go around on the bikes, like they can't slow down, but they've still got to deliver the food. Something like that.
Just throwing pizza at people's front doors. Amazing.
There's no brakes.
Really fast food. Just call it fast food.
Call it fast food. It's genius. I tell you what, there's the elevator pitch. It writes itself.
Very done. Absolutely. And then I thought, in terms of casting, I really like Daniel Kaluuya, so I thought he could be an interesting Jack Traven, give a bit of a spin on it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sydney Sweeney is this up-and-coming actress who's done a lot of TV, kind of prestigious stuff on HBO. She's really good.
Very much.
And someone who we mentioned was in consideration for Jack, but I think Woody Harrelson could be a really good bad guy.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I like those choices.
Yeah.
Very nice. What about you, Westy?
Oh, I've got 3.
Oh, Christ.
All right. Fucking hell. This is coming up in a Patreon episode that we're going to be recording next week. But Anne Hathaway and McConaughey together in an airboat over a Texas swamp.
Brilliant.
You know, like the start of Gentle Ben, them big airboats, right? It doesn't stop. That would be great. Emily Blunt and Ryan Gosling, I know they've just got together for The Fall Guy, but I think they'd be really good in a hot air balloon that we can't get back down. And Josh Brolin and Florence Pugh, because I've just seen Dune 2 and it's incredible. But them two would be wonderful in like a Western with a stagecoach, but the horses are on speed.
It's ludicrous.
It's called Horses on Speed. It's pretty much the
All
end
right.
of...
How do you think of that?
I don't know. It just came to us in a dream.
It's called Horses on Speed.
It's called Horses on Speed. What do you think about that? Put that on the front cover. That's all you need. It's about the horse. It's the end of Back to the Future Part 3 for 2.5 hours.
Oh, wow. Well, I do love these questions. Recasting is a favourite. We had a ball recasting Point Break, if you remember rightly, Westy.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Schwarzenegger was in there.
Obviously.
It's a contemporary tip that Matthew has us on here, so I'm going to say, as Jack, Luis Guzman.
Yes.
Obviously not.
I thought
Obviously
you were going
not.
to go Schwarzenegger and DeVito, but DeVito couldn't reach the pedals. Twins too. Rush Hour.
No, in the lead, I am having what you had, Matt. I'm having Daniel Kaluuya.
Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah,
Great choice. Young,
Great
strong, athletic, a believable action star, I think.
definitely.
And I think, and I'm going to start sound like a granddad here, but there are too many faceless, bland leads in movies over the last 10 years. I can't remember their names, but they're all called Chris or Tom or some shit like that.
There's a lot of Chris's.
There's a lot. There's too many Chris's.
Too many
I can't keep up.
Hemsworths. Yeah.
Too many Hemsworths. I don't know if any of them are any good. But I think Kaluuya really stands out for me because he's a really, really good actor, believable, and I think he's got the range.
I don't know if any of them are any good. We should really do a podcast about films.
Don't know the actors of the good.
No, but when I say I don't know if they're any good, my point is that they aren't very good. I don't like any of them.
I know.
Bland. In the part of Annie, I'm going to say Alison Brie.
Okay.
Right.
She's in
yes.
TV like Mad Men and Glow. She
Yes.
starred in Scream 4. She's really come to the fore
Very
in the last
good.
few years.
She's really
I think
good,
she's
yeah.
got a similar kind of appeal that Bullock has.
She does indeed, yeah.
I think she'd be believable in a role like this. Vulnerable, kind of like girl next door, but with a steely-eyed determination as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And humour.
Humour, very much.
Good sense of humour, yeah.
And as Payne, I've got Kate Blanchett in there. I think she
very
can
nice.
dial it up to deranged very easily.
Yeah.
She's one of the
Yeah.
best actresses out there, but I can just see her kind of getting maniacal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, although they did try that in Indiana Jones and it didn't quite work.
She doesn't need an accent.
Oh, that's fair enough. Right. Just shave her head.
Yeah. I mean, all this talent, I'm not too sure whether they'd be interested in a Speed remake. But their ideas are there if they're up for it.
It's worth a shot. It's worth a shot.
And I've probably been one-upped by Chris McQuarrie, but I'd like to go with a train like the Orient Express, add a little bit of class to proceedings.
Nice. Yeah.
I'd like that.
Yeah.
So our fantasies notwithstanding, the cast of Speed is certainly one of the reasons for its continued success.
Oh,
Yes.
definitely.
This episode of All the Right Movies is sponsored by BetterHelp. Without a healthy mind, being truly happy and at peace is hard. The good news is therapy works. But what is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. Maybe you're not feeling motivated right now and would like some tools to help. Or maybe you're feeling insecure in relationships or at work and not dealing well with stress. Whatever you need, it's time to stop being ashamed of normal human struggles and start feeling better because you deserve to be happy. And now you don't have to worry about finding an in-person therapist near you to help. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. Join the millions of people who are seeing what online therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are your greatest asset. And a special offer to all ATRM listeners, you can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/ATRM. That's betterhelp, HELP.com/ATRM. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this episode of All the Right Movies.
The middle.
The second act has Annie behind the wheel and she knows how to keep it above 50.
Yep.
But there's a big problem in her way. Classic LA traffic, which threatens everything. And I just like the constant threat that Annie, Jack, and the passengers face here.
Yeah.
I think there's some great footage here of the bus evading traffic, smashing into parked cars, the reactions from the passengers. I think for the most part, it makes you believe that the bus is going above 50. Although there are some shots in there that
For the most
aren't
part,
that convincing.
Yeah.
But it's all pretty hair-raising, edge-of-your-seat kind of stuff. when the bus exits the freeway and slams into the traffic, the actual bus had to stop every 25 feet or so because it didn't have enough power to ram through them all.
Well, there you go.
I think it's great editing to stitch that footage together to make it look believable.
Yeah.
But that moment when the bus smashes into the baby carriage is great, but it's sneaky. Sneaky as hell.
It's really, really painful.
Yeah.
It makes you believe that there would be a baby in there. The shot of it flying in the air in front of the bus is very dramatic.
Slow motion as well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Slow-mo.
Just draw it out.
Yeah. Bullet's reaction is excellent. You really believe that she thinks that she's killed a baby, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
But then it's the classic tin can reveal.
Yeah.
Graham Yost, the screenwriter, said this is the moment he's most proud of in the film. I mean, it's not the most original movie idea, is it?
No, I mean, it's not the best writing I've ever encountered.
It's not. But the film tricks you into it. The woman pushing it, she ain't no snaggle-toothed hobo. It's a respectable looking woman who's at a crossing saying goodbye to a friend who looks equally respectable.
Yeah.
What on earth is she doing pushing a pram full of tin cans?
No idea.
What is she up to?
Just pissing us off as an audience.
Yeah.
That's the whole point, isn't it?
Crazy.
It's that cut when it just disappears from her complete grasp. It's such a great cut.
Well, the film needs it to happen, but creates this unbelievable scenario for it. But not to take anything away from the action and the intensity that de Bont brings to this sequence overall.
Yeah.
But the moment he's most proud of, I mean, come on, Graham.
Come on. Jesus.
Following that, I want to talk about when Helen comes a cropper and meets her demise.
Comes a cropper. Brilliant.
Comes a cropper, and I laughed at it.
I know. Someone's been reading Hamlet.
Because I think when she gets blown up, that feels like such a trope of the disaster movie. You know, there's always someone who's basically as like the sacrificial lamb to just remind you of like how perilous the situation is by losing their life. You know, it's really reminiscent to me of the Town Inferno when they've set up the cables between towers to winch people off, and Robert Vaughn and all the other rich arseholes jump on it and end up falling to the deaths. But the difference is Helen is just an innocent bystander caught up in this. You can understand the fact that she gets this little glimpse of safety of getting off the bus and just kind of loses control and rushes forward, because I do like that nice little setup earlier when she's talking around and she says how she can't handle freeways anymore. Mm-hmm. So there's already that anxiety there about driving.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's not too much. It's not, if she'd said something like, if I have to take the bus one more time, it's going to kill me, that would be so on the nose.
Yeah, that'd be too much.
That would be really bad. So I do
But
like
if
how
that
it's
was
set
in
up.
there, Yost would be so proud of it.
That'd be his second favourite moment.
Second favourite moment.
Second favourite moment. But I think it's a moment that's really well judged, because I think in movies like this, where again, like I say, you have to demonstrate how seriously you take the villain, how seriously you take the peril. It can go too far. Like I always say, in Die Hard 2, once Colonel Stewart crashes that passenger plane and 200 innocent people just die in a ball of flame, like, you can't enjoy the rest of the film.
Yeah.
Because that's too much. Like, how can you enjoy the rest of it? It's, you know, compared to Die Hard, all I have to do is execute Takagi at the start as one man, and that's all you need to know these people are serious.
Yeah.
And I think Speed, thankfully, is much more Die Hard than it is Die Hard 2 when it comes to that.
Yeah, very much.
The one thing that de Bont would change about the film is this moment where the driver is helped off the bus. You wish that he had all the passengers rush to the exit to give the scene more urgency. It's like they're all desperate to get off.
Yeah. I mean, it would have worked. I think it works with Helen meeting her doom. I think that the urgency and the peril is more than enough in that moment.
I think it's more than enough. It would have just really ramped up your anxiety to think, well, we can't trust these people.
Yeah.
And you want them all to be a team, and you want them all to kind of work for each other, and that gives you security within this whole terrible situation. I think if that had been every man for himself, Jack wouldn't have been able to control that at all, especially the character that's played.
Yeah, it shows the lack of control that he would have, Jack would have, if all of them go for it.
Yeah. So I'm going to go for the moment that we've all expected and really looking forward to.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there's a gap in the freeway. Fucking course there is. Amazing. And it's the dialogue here that's just so wonderful. 50 feet. It's a 50 feet gap, right?
At least.
Jack said there might be an incline. Floor it. Oh, yes. To be that guy for 30 seconds in any day would absolutely just make my life so much more complete. But to have that just blind sense of faith He's just, we're going to make it. It's going to happen. There's that incredible aerial shot where the bus just, everyone around it just disappears and the bus just speeds ahead. And then it pans up and you see the gap in the freeway. It's like it's a real thing. And the music ramps up and everyone's just fucking shitting themselves. And it's just like, this is never going to happen. But then you see these cuts to the speedometer and it's 70. And they hit that ramp at 70 and then it takes off. Like a bus in midair is going to hit 70 miles an hour or 70 kilometers an hour or whatever it is. It's so unbelievably stupid. And then hits every single barrier as it lands. Doesn't slow it down whatsoever. It's not a missile. It's just a bus. Its maximum speed is 70. That's the maximum speed it goes. It's got to maintain that 20 all the way through. But you fucking buy it because of them close-ups. You just go, that's not going to happen. Well, the speedometer says 70, so fuck you. And it's like, that's not going to happen. Well, it's landed. Look, it's still above 50, so in your face. It's just a great, great sequence. Yeah, incredible. Nothing more to say.
Incredible.
Nothing more to say.
Cinema.
It is.
Cinema.
Bloody cinema. That bloody bastard cinema. Make me believe things that aren't real.
And the interesting thing is, though, that jump over the freeway, it wasn't even in the shooting script. The film was shot on the yet-to-be-open Century Freeway, Interstate 105. And de Bont was on his way to set one morning, and he noticed the unfinished parts of the construction and just thought it'd be great to stage a jump set piece on that.
Is this film just written on Post-it notes? And he's just moving it around.
Just moving it.
Yeah,
that doesn't work there.
Just drive into the set. Oh, this would be really good. Like one of the biggest set pieces in the whole film.
Yeah.
Just
the tentpole set piece in the whole film.
It's huge.
For the stunt, the bus was stripped down to make it as light as possible, with only the stunt driver on board. The first attempt was a disaster. The bus crashed, a fact which was hidden from the studio. Didn't want them to know that.
No, of course not.
Dangerous. The second attempt was much more successful. It was mapped out to hit the ramp at 67 miles an hour to get sufficient airtime, and it started its run a mile back. And it hit the ramp at 61 miles an hour, travelling 109 feet, and the front wheels reached 20 feet off the ground, which was much further than anticipated. There were 5 cameras set up to catch different angles, and it landed on one of the cameras, smashing it to bits.
Amazing.
But they got enough coverage with the aid of slow-mo and the Oscar-nominated editing, the suspension of disbelief, I think is maintained. Because if you look at the raw footage of the stunt, it's not impressive.
No.
It just goes up and down.
Down, yeah.
To cut all of that material together to make it look like it goes over a 50-foot jump is really impressive.
The stunt driver himself was on a harness which suspended him in air, meaning that his spine wasn't at risk of compressing on landing. But he forgot to put it in his mouth guard, and the impact meant that he pretty much bit his tongue in half. Like, seriously. One of the cast members from the bus said that it was hanging off when he got out the bus and he had to go to hospital, but he's back on set 2 days later.
Hero.
Wow. He's the real Jack Traven, isn't he? He's the real Reeves. Anything that's needed.
In reality, there wasn't a missing piece in the freeway. It was digitally removed, and de Bont added in a flock of birds flying by to emphasize the fact.
Okay.
I think it looks, I mean, like you said, it's in camera. It looks as though it's not there.
Yeah,
but if you look closely at the ground, you'll see that there's a shadow from the digitally removed piece of the road.
Oh, really? Okay.
Okay, right.
Yeah. Right. Of course, it has been proven that it's physically impossible for the bus to have made the jump of that distance. It would have just basically plummeted to the ground.
Yep.
But who cares about that, right?
Yeah. Fuck it.
So set piece after set piece in the second act, turning the tension dial up to 11.
Definitely.
Yeah.
With Annie making the jump, relative safety is resumed and Jack has a master plan to save the day. The bus pulls into LAX, where it ultimately meets its demise.
Yeah.
And I'm picking up here with a conversation Jack has with Payne over the telephone.
Nice.
First point to make here is that when the bus enters the airport, the tyres are popped, which should make an impact to the speed and navigation of the bus.
Correct.
I mean, it does, but not until way later, just when the film needs it to, which is nice and convenient, isn't it?
Physics don't exist.
No. There are some shots throughout the film where Payne miraculously gets his thumb back. And as one of our patrons pointed out, one of them happens during this phone call. Payne snaps his fingers with his apparent 4-fingered hand.
Oh, really?
You know, we can skirt over that as well, I suppose.
Yeah. Wow.
I think here you can tell that Payne is starting to get a little threatened by Jack, and he knows that the walls are closing in, so that's when he starts to make his demands about the money, and he's undermining Jack's intelligence again. I don't know why these demands about the money haven't been set in play before now. from Payne. Just been pissing around with dummies behind him and TV screens, watching the ball game, drinking Diet Cokes. Line delivery here is weird as well when Jack is saying that the people on the bus think that he's bullshit. And Payne replies, "They don't think that." Awful. Just a really odd choice.
Yeah.
And there's some bad dubbing when Jack negotiates to get off the bus. Payne says, "All right, but I want you back real fast." But his mouth says something completely different.
Yeah.
Check it out next time if you haven't noticed
Right,
it.
I noticed that.
But I like when Jack gets off the bus. Doug says, "What, are you just going to leave us here?" And Ortiz says, "I would." Great.
Yeah.
And then there's a lovely human moment between Jack and Annie that could have been cheese on toast, but comes across as very sincere. And I think that's down to the chemistry between the two. Annie says, "Don't forget about us."
Yeah.
And Jack just shoots her a look. I think it just gives the whole thing an extra layer of emotion, which I really, really like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the moment in Aliens when Ripley tells Hicks his name, she says Ellen. And it kind of has that feel.
I get that. But imagine how cool that would be. You've been through all of that. You know for a fact she's interested, and you just step onto your mate's Jeep.
Yeah.
And you're just like talking to him through the window. And it's just like, oh, this guy. Like, couldn't be any cooler at that point. It's all I've ever wanted to do. I would slip off that dead. The easiest thing to do. I would slip off.
I'm going to pick up for me because I think Jack's plan to try and defuse the bomb underneath the bus. I love this sequence because it's all about how the situation just escalates. Like, I don't even know what you call that thing that Jack is lying on, but they've got to time and place it perfectly to get it under the bus. But it doesn't look like the most secure thing in the world that I'd want to be lying on going at that speed. No. And again, this is what I'm talking about when I say how good the location shooting is, about how visceral it is. You know, even if Reeves, during the scene, he is tethered to the bottom of the bus for this scene, you still think that tarmac's like 6 inches of like splitting his skull open.
Yeah.
And it really brings that home. And it's all those cuts to like the detritus and the rubbish on the runway that Annie is running over. You know that's going to come back at some point, but Annie can't swerve because now Jack is underneath the bus. So it's just got to keep it straight like an arrow.
Yeah.
She's trying to stop everyone kicking off on the bus, get them back behind the line. And then when Harry gives Jack the instruction over the phone, you know, cut the sheath, but don't cut the wire. I mean, fucking hell. That's precise enough at the best of times, let alone traveling at 50 miles an hour on a metal tray that's bouncing around all over the place.
Yeah. And Jan de Bont just throws in some rubbish on top of that to bounce him up.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, it's great stuff. And then Jack punctures the fuel tank when one of those pieces of rubbish does hit him. So, yeah, I really love the sequence. And it's just got a great line at the end of it when he gets back on the bus. Did you have any luck with the bomb? Yeah, didn't go off.
Love
that. Yeah. Great.
But him getting onto that bus is physically impossible. I mean, he must have some core strength. So his legs must be straight, and he's bending his top half of his body into the bus without his legs going any further to the road. Yeah. And they pull him up, and it's fine. It's like, it always makes me feel really fucking wheezy. Like, I would never... I'm done in that situation. I'm done.
This scene was scrutinised by an explosives ordnance disposal expert.
Of course it was. Fucking hell.
Who rubbished Jack's actions. He said that there were dozens of ways to tackle this kind of situation, but this wasn't it. Well, he said that Jack shouldn't use a radio for communication next to an electronic device, which, totally solid point.
Yep.
And also, he said that considering Jack's profession, he should know more about bombs and shouldn't rely on the advice of his partner on the other end of the phone.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
All fair points. I mean, he is a bomb disposal expert, but he knows shit all about bombs.
Yeah. I think are they not just like a special forces kind of member of the LAPD?
Bomb squad?
Oh, the bomb squad.
The bomb squad.
Oh, right. Well, that totally makes sense then. He's a fucking idiot. This is where it gets like the most emotional that it's going to get, I guess. And it's Harry, that's our scumbag! And they find the guy, and everyone's really excited about it. I mean, the guy who's holding the file at that point where she's like describing how Howard Payne is, and like fingers totaling 9, and the guy's just like, way! Watch him on the left-hand side of the screen. It's so fucking funny. It just doesn't care. Like, Jan de Bont does not care about these sequences at all in the police station. Like, just get it over with. And is that house the most blown-up house in cinema history in LA? Yeah, I was like, you see that house and you go, that's going to explode, surely. That is the same house I've seen blown up so many times. But I need something else here from Harry. I need, like, he just accepts his fate. I need a line or something. You know, like Barry Pepper in Saving Private Ryan, when he's like, Parker, get out, and he's just knows that it's no good anyway.
Yeah.
But there's that emotional kind of pull, like there's none of that. It's Harry just going, oh, fucking hell, right? Yeah, he's still hungover. Oh, whatever.
Yeah, accept his fate.
Thank God. It's almost like he's saying, oh, thank fuck for this, I'm out of here. It's absolutely fine. There's no real regret in that moment. I wanted a little bit more heart. And it's Jack's reaction to that actually brings the heart to it. But he really needs that phone. And he just smashes it up. It surely needs that. You don't just smash that up.
He really needs that.
And then he loses it, and he's like, he gets to that point where he's like, we're all going to die. It's like, all right. But then you see how good Annie is as his partner, as his teammate in this. And she brings back, Jack, we need you, okay? We need you. We need you to focus. We need you back. We need you back. And there's that great moment where he just looks and you see that shot of all the passengers on the bus, and it just resets him. And he just goes, okay, I've got a job to do. Okay, I'm going to push that to one side. And not to get too like deep into it, but maybe that's what he thought of, like hearing about River Phoenix dying and trying to like get on with the film. And maybe that's a little bit loaded in this, because he's genuinely great at that point. Like Reeves gets that, and he's genuinely brilliant in that reset.
Yeah, because he's been completely unflappable up until this point.
Exactly, and he gets that news and it breaks him down, but it's how quickly he rebuilds himself. Again, just morally perfect.
I think that we can't go any further without addressing Jeff Daniels' performance in this film.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think he feels very oddly out of place. I don't think he's ever shown up in a film like this.
No.
And is pretty much an inconsequential cast member.
Yeah.
I mean, Jeff Daniels, what's he doing? What's Jeff Daniels doing in this film? At this time as well, he was quite a big star. Yeah. And he's like a fourth lead. Originally, he was the villain of the piece.
Right.
In cahoots with Howard Payne.
Yeah. Right.
But once Hopper came on board, it was decided that Hopper could carry the villainy on all by himself.
Yeah.
So dramatic rewrites were done about a month before production started. So it changed the whole thing.
I think you can tell Jeff Daniels is a bit pissed off about the whole thing. Like the way he just, maybe he had a line and he said, I'm not saying it. I'm not doing it. Fuck off.
Your line.
Yeah, fuck off. I'm glad to be out of the film.
I think it's quite loaded at the start, or when they're having drinks.
Yeah.
When they get commended, and he's saying things about she shot us in the leg, and he's quite bitter about it.
Yeah.
So I think that would have fed into where he was the villain. I think that would have fed into that.
Yeah.
And I suppose it works in retrospect that because it's Daniels, you're almost expecting him to be a bad guy in hiding, but the film subverts those expectations. I think that's quite lucky, though.
It is very lucky the way that it's played out. But I mean, it would have been wonderful if Jeff Daniels turned out to be the bad guy with Payne at the end, and they were both, because the bombs were so different every single time. It's their expertise that happens, and then you find out that Annie's got it strapped to her, and then you see that that's the twist. But then you see again the twist on top of that is that it's Harry, and then he turns to Keanu Reeves' character, right? He turns to Jack and goes, "Shoot the hostage," and then shoots Sandra Bullock in the head. Based on the earlier sequence, like shoot the hostage, and he kills her. That would have been fucking massive.
Yeah. I mean,
But really
it sounds great. It's really depressing.
Yeah,
really
but that would have
depressing.
been lovely. Like kind of
Lovely.
Lovely. Sandra Bullock shot in the head. Not for me.
Can't shoot Bullock.
But using his own words against him is like, guts will get you so far, then they'll get you killed. I think that would have been good.
Oh, it would. I mean, it sounds great, but a little dramatic.
Never going to happen. Who's going to watch that? Classic Westy film.
Apart from Westy. So Jack is running out of options and close to giving up, but Annie's by his side every step of the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The crew.
Crew work on speed, a mixed bag of unfamiliar names, I suppose. We're starting with the screenplay by Graham Yost. And I think the story of the screenplay is a very complicated one, and we'll get into that in a moment.
Yeah.
But what I like about the writing is, we mentioned it, that very straightforward, high concept.
Yeah.
There are no big themes at play here, no metaphor. This is just pure popcorn movie making. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all.
No.
In fact, if you're making a film like this, make it as simple as possible.
Well, exactly. That's what you want, isn't it?
And that's exactly what Graham Yost has written. A bus going over 50 miles an hour. If it goes under, it explodes, taking all the passengers with it. Yeah. Boom. That's the pitch that get anybody interested. Let's go. I'm all in. It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
A very simplistic concept. And in some respects, a very silly one. We talked about it. You've got to suspend your disbelief to be bought in.
Yeah.
And I think that's a word that we've all used a lot on this episode. Belief, disbelief, unbelievable.
Yeah.
outrageous, those kind of words.
All necessary.
So it's not rooted in reality by any stretch. And I think that the reason that we do suspend disbelief is down to that physical filmmaking that Jan de Bont brings to it.
Mm-hmm.
And to some extent, the cast, the writing, a lot of it was done on set. Like we mentioned, Harry's character was changed just like that.
Yeah.
Ideas were added, ideas were taken away. The big set piece of the film, the huge spectacle set piece, was thought about on set on the way to work.
Ridiculous.
I think it's a miracle we got a cohesive film considering the changes.
Yeah.
So I think it's got a great elevator pitch concept, but nothing really wonderful going on outside of that. It doesn't necessarily need to. For what it does it very well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, it's time for our third and final Patreon question. This one comes from Scott Snowden. How you doing, Scott?
Hello, Scott.
Scott says, suspension of disbelief is part of enjoying movies, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But is there another movie ostensibly set in the, quotes, real world that has a more ludicrous plot than Speed? The idea that it's even remotely possible to keep a bus moving through a major city at 50 miles an hour. It is ludicrous. I get it. LA traffic. LA is synonymous with traffic and not being able to move for hours on end.
Yes.
So, yeah, we mentioned it.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to go first on this one.
Okay.
And I can't quite remember the setting because I watched it quite a while ago. I think it was when it was released, which is over 25 years. But I do remember watching Face Off when it came out, and it totally lost me.
That's
central concept.
That's my first choice.
Obviously, Nick Cage didn't help that either.
No.
But the big one for me is an outside choice. It is Weekend at Bernie's, a silly film. Now, carting a dead body around town of a man who's known in the area and not being found out. I'm also certain that in that film, Bernie's cadaver has sex with a woman who's none the wiser.
Yes.
I mean, which exec signed off on that and gave it $15 million budget in 1989?
I'm going to say it works for me. Weekend at Bernie's.
Of course it does. So yes, Weekend at Bernie's is my choice. A very strange film, very strange concept. What about yours, Matt?
Very good.
Couldn't be more opposite to Weekend at Bernie's, quite honestly.
Really?
I've gone Armageddon. I mean, just from beginning to end, that film. They say the asteroid is the size of Texas, but even so, would it still have its own gravity? I don't think that's how gravity works. And I don't know how much of an urban myth it is, but I have heard it reported if you do ever work at NASA, one of your first tasks is watch Armageddon, and you've got to make a note of how many scientific inaccuracies there are.
Brilliant.
Oh, wow, really?
Brilliant.
And apparently there's 168 in there, which is approximately 1 per minute of the film, because it's quite a long film.
Amazing.
And there's the famous quote from Ben Affleck where he said he went up to Michael Bay and he said, well, wouldn't it be easier to train astronauts to be drillers rather than drillers to be astronauts? And Bay just said, shut the fuck up. So that was the end of that conversation.
That's a fair shout, Matt.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Westy?
I'm going to go Nick Cage again, and I'm going to go Con Air.
Okay.
Brilliant. Just loads of prisoners on a plane, and it just gets hijacked and then lands on the Vegas Strip. Yeah, no problem. No worries. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. That's mostly like grounded in reality. But a special shout out to Highlander, which is just absolutely outrageous.
What, for being totally grounded?
Being amazing. Yeah, but like lopping their heads off, that's the only way to kill somebody. That's just a great, great concept. And I'll say snakes on the plane again.
So bringing it back to the writing, Westy.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Graham Yoss's script?
I feel like he really sweated over this, and I feel like there's a script out there that really makes sense, that's really grounded in reality, that he really tried to just think of all these obstacles and try to think of a real way to defeat them. And that whole thing was thrown out when they've just looked at the tagline. It's like, it can't drop below 50 because then it explodes. And it's like, yeah, let's just go with that.
Let's go.
And just like, no, but I've got all these extra bits that are going to go in there that make sense. And like, no, fuck off. I'm not bothered about that. That's how it feels. It feels like it's a great concept, and there was a script by Graham Yost that was cohesive and that made sense. But at the same time, that's not an action film.
No.
And you can see some of the bits on the bus where it makes absolute sense, like, you know, that he's being watched with the CCTV all the time, that's been set up, and then that's a nice twist, and you realise he's been watching them on the bus and it wasn't actually the cameras outside. And then they go to the airport because there's no like planes flying overhead. He hits the gas tank because he's just trying to disarm the bomb underneath. That all makes perfect sense. It's like it adds levels of like peril to what's going on. But then they go, no, we're going to put this elevator in at the start, and just there's this thing on the roof that's going to be able to, you know, suspend it. It's fine. And then we're going to throw this train in at the end, and that's going to be great. And then this is going to happen. And there is a cohesive screenplay out there, but it is not what we see on the screen at all.
No, I agree. And Matt, what are your thoughts on the writing of Speed?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you can take it apart at any kind of number of levels of logic and
very easily.
Very easily.
Yeah.
But you know what? The film wouldn't work if fundamentally it didn't have good things in it. And I do think it has a lot of good things in it. And the one I want to talk about is I really do like the writing of all the smaller supporting characters in this, because it is, again, to mention it, it is similar to Die Hard in that way. Like, if you take McClane in the hands out of Die Hard, you still got a lot of characters to talk about, even with minimal screen time. And I'm not putting Speed quite up there with that, but it does have a few that stick in mind. We've already talked about Maurice with his Jaguar. I really do like Alan Ruck's character. He's very funny. Like,
he's very good, yeah.
When Jack is using him to relay information to Harry over the phone, he goes, "Fuck me." And he just takes Speed and goes, "Oh, darn."
Yeah.
It's really funny. Or when they're trying to get Sam off the bus and he's snapping away photos because, like he says, he's a tourist, so he's just having a whale of a time.
Yeah.
I've been to the airport.
Yeah, I've been to the airport. Sam the driver, I like him, Ortiz, but again, I think I'd mention Harry here, because the way his character is written, and you know, we've already said it got changed at the last minute, but I would still say, because Jack shoots him, he's out the action, he's stuck behind a desk. You think, well, he's going to be stuck there. He's going to be safe. He's going to be doing, you know, the investigation work on the ground, and that's his role now, so he'll be fine. But that's not the case, obviously. So, you know, I think that bit does hit, and I think that part is written well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the writing is obviously primarily concerned with making the middle part of the film work, which it really, really does. But in amongst that, I do think you've got some nice little character moments along the way. But it is interesting that the casting of the passengers, that was deliberately influenced by ethnicity, because de Bont wanted to represent how multicultural LA is. And he wanted ordinary-looking people that you would conceivably see if you did travel by bus in that city.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been on a bus in LA and I didn't see no Sandra Bullock. I'll tell you that.
The cast who played the bus passengers generally have a bittersweet memories of filming.
Yeah.
When they were cast, the script looked very different, as we've discussed. Originally, they all had a major part to play in the narrative. They all had different talents. One was a paramedic, one was a film student, etc. And eventually, they pulled together to solve the problem. But when rewrites came in, the whole cast were left deflated because their lines were taken away and they were just like screaming cultural stereotypes.
Yeah, it is a bit of a shame. Beth Grant, who plays Helen, said she was originally supposed to give CPR to the bus driver who had a heart attack originally.
Right.
And she felt she had like a really heroic role. And after the rewrites, de Bont told her, "There's too many heroes in this. We need a coward, and you're it."
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Jesus Christ. And despite all the disappointment, there was a huge amount of camaraderie created on the bus cast. They kept each other amused, telling jokes and dancing, with Bullock being the ringlead, obviously. Amazing.
Obviously. Yeah.
They even rescued a few stray dogs roaming the LA streets, and in the end, now look back fondly on their time circling LA in the sweltering heat. Now, they all had a pretty good time, apparently. They're on the same.
Story.
They're on the same bus.
Yeah.
In the same boat.
Yeah, definitely when it came to Bullock, they were all just overwhelming in the praise for her, how much they loved her and adored her. And because she, as you'd expect, she's very outgoing, she kept morale sky high, and apparently not adverse to the odd practical joke, because one day Alan Ruck went to his trailer for a nap and noticed what he thought was a pile of dog turd on his floor. But on close examination, it turned out to be a banana that had been cut up, painted brown, with twigs and debris added to give it texture, which is disgusting. This was down to Bullock being creative, and she was obviously killing herself laughing when he came out of his trailer very confused. But to get it back, he broke into her trailer and he glued everything that moved to the surface.
Loads of downtime.
It's like Tim on Gareth, just gluing his phone together.
But he's still
In
very jelly.
Yeah, on the other end of the scale, the cast, you know, they said that Keanu was lovely, but that he was very reserved and very serious. But Beth Grant loved his acting approach. She said, he's so good at silences.
He's great at doing nothing. Yeah.
In Duna's work in between TV jobs, Yoss was searching for a great movie idea. So he asked his dad, because he presented Saturday Night at the Movies, which was a Canadian movie review show. So he asked him if there were any great movie ideas that didn't fulfill their potential. And his dad mentioned Runaway Train from 1985, which is directed by Andrei Konchalovsky, which stars John Voight and Eric Roberts, which he thought included a bomb on a train. Yost got round to watching it, realised there is no bomb on the train, and from there the idea was born, switched the action to a bus and added the bomb.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I've seen that film before. It's got a really good reputation, but it's badly acted. Really badly acted.
The action's great, and again, like Speed, the location shooting on that is excellent, but the acting's very strange.
Action's awful. Yeah, awful. Originally, all of the action in Speed was contained in the bus. No elevators or trains in sight. Yost wrote it as the bus not being able to go below 20 miles an hour originally, and called it minimum speed. That sounds very safe.
That's not getting anyone in.
That is true.
Is that true?
That's true.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
20 mile an hour. But a close friend suggested popping it up to 50 to heighten the jeopardy. Yeah. And after this, Yost removed the word minimum, thinking that it didn't really scream excitement.
It doesn't really.
Paramount optioned the script first in 1992 and sat on it for a while. During this time, an exec at Paramount, Don Granger, considered adapting it to become Beverly Hills Cop 3, which would have been, well, anything else is better than Beverly Hills Cop 3. He pitched it at a meeting, but it was quickly dismissed as a really bad idea.
Yeah. Well, I suppose Axel in a theme park sounded better on paper.
Yeah, it's just like the start of Beverly Hills Cop 1, just for longer. I don't smoke Lucky Strike.
Smoke king size, Kent. The script went through loads of rewrites. I mean, we've talked about this, as these things usually do. And as mentioned, Fox demanded more rewrites when they picked it up. Originally, the bus circled Dodger Stadium, with it exploding near the Hollywood sign before moving the action to LAX. Loads of changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and part of the reason for the rewrites were studio demands. So one screenwriter, still unnamed to this day, actually, he was drafted in by Fox and he basically destroyed the whole thing. It was left in tatters. So Fox had to bring in a script doctor to get it back into shape. And that is now disgraced writer-director Josh Whedon, who zinged up the dialogue. And according to Yost, he did end up writing 98.9% of the dialogue. But because the Writers Guild of America have these kind of labyrinthian, complicated rules, Whedon never got a writing credit for it.
Wow. 98.9%. So basically all of it. All of the dialogue.
Yeah. You can see where Payne's got his 3.7 million figure from.
Yeah. Yeah. Yost claims that Whedon wrote the most famous line in the film, the pop quiz hot shot, but Whedon refutes this. He said that it was already in the script when he got his slimy hands on it. So nobody knows exactly where it came from. It may have been from that unknown, unnamed writer.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Aside from the dialogue, he changed Alan Ruck's character from a high-powered, offensive lawyer to an out-of-town, wide-eyed tourist. And he worked with Reeves to change Jack from a wisecracking badass to a polite guy trying not to get anybody killed. Is that what he's like? Reeves told Whedon, I don't want to pull my gun. And Whedon said, I don't want you to either, but you kind of have to. The studio is not going to let you not pull your gun.
Yeah.
After Whedon was unsuccessful in getting a writing credit, Yost was kind of selfish in his outlook. He said that the WGA, the Writers Guild of America, was to blame for not allowing the additional dialogue credit. And he also said, of course I'm going to write a letter to the WGA saying I deserve sole credit. I sat with that thing for years. That's my baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see that, though. You can see that there was something in there somewhere that absolutely made sense.
Yeah, well, did it?
Minimum speed sounds fucking massive.
I think that it would never have been made had Whedon not come on board, to be quite honest.
Yeah, true.
Reading between the lines. Yeah. So say what you want about the writing. The concept at the heart of Speed is popcorn movie gold.
It is.
Yes,
it is.
Really
it's the concept that makes the whole thing work.
Next up in the crew, we're talking about the score by Mark Mancina.
Nice. Dun, 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 dun.
Talking about the score by Mark Mancina. Nice.
What do you think of this one, Westy?
Westy, you go for it.
It's fucking massive, isn't it? What a fucking score this is. It's huge. I love it. It's got a theme. I love that. It's recognizable. I love that. It's got real emotion to it when them strings come in, but it's got that punch and it's got that drive. it is memorable. But at the same time, does it really work for the film? Does it match what you're seeing? I don't know if it does. Do you know what I mean? It seems like it's a different thing, and I don't know if it's got like the grandeur that it needs. It's there and it's big, but it's not big enough.
I don't think it's big enough.
Do you know what I mean? To really, it's not like Hans Zimmer doing like Inception or something where you're like, oh, this engulfs
this
the
is
whole
massive.
Yeah, I've just watched, like, I know it's been to say June 2, but like watching that, you just go, this whole soundscape just engulfs the whole picture in IMAX. This is like dun 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 dun. Come on, like, it's good, but then it needs the it gets too emotional when it should be dramatic, and it gets too dramatic when it should be emotional, and it just like it's mismatched for me. It's a great score, and I'll listen to it on me commute now and again, just to make me commute a little bit more exciting. But it doesn't sit as one of them classics.
No.
The theme's great. It just needs to be fucking 10 times bigger.
What about you, Matt? Would you prefer to see it 10 times bigger?
I want everything 10 times bigger, quite frankly. Good. I think it's the most 90s action soundtrack imaginable. Like those synth drums, the orchestration. Like, until you two started doing it, I would have to say I wouldn't really recognise or be able to hum the theme from Speed. Now I can, because it used to be banging on about it last couple of hours. If I listened to it in isolation, I wouldn't be able to say, oh, that's from Speed. But I'd go, that's a mid-90s action film. Could be The Rock, could be Con Air, could be Face Off. So it's definitely of a genre.
I think it's got all the hallmarks of kind of like a classic movie score, orchestral numbers, but it kind of sounds like a dance track from the 90s as well. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
I'd have been grooving to that in the 90s.
Yeah, it's like a menu from the SNES. Like one of the games on the Super Nintendo. It's like dun, 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 dun. Yeah, I'm getting into this.
I'll take points from both of your comments and say that, yes, Matt, I didn't think that I really noticed it on first rewatch. As a result, Westy, I think it needs to be bigger. Yeah. Just like Dalton.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be bigger.
I thought it'd be bigger, yeah.
If you listen out, in the quieter moments of the film, the score takes individual parts of the main theme and uses them as cues.
Yeah.
De Bont said that the title track during the credits contains all the themes in the movie. Every single one is represented and kind of pushed together. So, like, some parts are used in isolation for cues throughout the film.
Wasted. Nobody's noticing that. It's an absolute waste of energy, that.
I do think that the main theme is a very good one. We've talked about on recent podcasts about the lack of a main theme in scores recently.
Yeah, definitely.
And this one is memorable. It's identifiable. I think it is used effectively to aid the action scenes. I think it could have been used more effectively, though.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And the least said about that Billy Idol song, the much better.
Yeah, that's terrific.
Yeah.
We'll leave it there. Yeah.
Yeah, Mark Mancina said that he wanted the theme to play the character of the bus, representing incredible danger and also heroic power, because they are safe on that bus until it blows up. And he also incorporated sounds from the bus itself into the score. So instead of using traditional instruments, he used a hammer, for example, hitting the bus, and a tire being hit with a mallet.
A waste of time.
Yeah, a waste of time.
Just a waste of time.
Waste of effort.
Mark, like, I don't think he did.
Waste of a hammer.
If you listen to it again, it's not like the Joker's theme from A Dark Knight, is it? Where it's just like it's razor wire on string. It's not like Texas Chainsaw, where you're like, oh, this has got an actual identity.
Edge, yeah.
It's just dun 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 with a hammer going. Bop, bop, that's it.
Not necessary.
Originally, Fox had hired go-to action music stalwart Michael Kamen. I mean, yeah,
of course.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah,
Natural wanted him to compose the music, but De Bont wanted something. Check this out. Wanted something more active and contemporary. His goal was to have music that was modelled on what you might hear from someone's headphones on a bus. Now, that's true if you're standing next to me on a bus.
Listening
because of
to
speed,
the
though.
soundtrack.
So it's a paradox.
He approached Mancina through Hans Zimmer's studio because of his youthful musical zest and his rock and roll background, apparently. Right. He had worked with the band Yes. Okay. Of course, we're being very broad by calling Yes rock and roll.
Very, very broad.
Yeah. Yes. No.
No.
So, a decent score from Mark Mancina.
Yep.
And a fortuitous script from Graham Yost, I would say.
Yep.
But also, I think a special mention should go to editor John Wright and his team for their Oscar-nominated efforts as well.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
100%.
The end.
With Jack in the depths of despair over Harry and his impending doom, he noticed something that changes the game. Matt, you're going to take us away.
I am going to talk about the wildcat scene because it's classic speed. On one hand, you can pick apart the logic very easily. That camera's not exactly high def, is it? So the chances of Payne being able to see the logo on Annie's jacket.
Yeah.
And also, if Payne has been watching that camera, he didn't see the passengers drag Jack through the hatch when he's been trying to defuse the bomb. I mean, he couldn't have missed that. I mean, surely that would have made him blown it there and then. But on the other hand, it kind of rescues itself with a little bit of a clever twist to it because Jack and his captain have been griping all through the film about the TV helicopters following the bus. So that's how you think Payne has been keeping track of them all. So it's a nice little bit of misdirection. And also, we've seen all along that while Payne has been watching them, he's also had that American football game on the TV in the background. So he's clearly a fan. He knows his teams. It's such an innocuous detail because you go, yeah, okay, the guy likes his sport. He needs something to do while he's watching the bus. So you don't think anything of it. So it kind of adds up in that sense as well. So as much as plot-wise, it doesn't really hold up. I think character-wise, it does, which more than compensates for it.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a leap, but it's believable. It's buyable, I think.
Yeah.
Well, at the moment where they hack into Payne's video feed and loop the bus footage, making a fool out of him. I just like the narrative beat here. I think it feels very believable, and it feels like we're finally kind of getting away off this bus. We've outstayed our welcome now, I think.
Yeah.
But they've only got a minute of footage, so the tension is sky high when the passengers are getting off. Again, I think it's practical effects which work well. Doug just about makes it, and you really feel that. But this is when the popped bus tyres show their face to raise the stakes. The film needed it too, and I suppose I am that deep into the film that I can suspend my disbelief that little bit further to give it a pass.
Yeah.
And yes, physical effects, so much so that the cast successfully lobbied to get danger money from hopping from one bus to the other.
Right.
Because it's all part of kind of like the union pay scale.
Okay.
So if they're doing dangerous work, I think they got an extra couple of $100 a piece,
Right.
which is all very nice.
Yeah, lovely. It's Mac in that scene, though. That guy is just trying his best to loop that tape. He's, run it! Run it! So, all right, man, for fuck's sake, just calm down. I've got control of this. Stop shouting in my face. I'm trying to loop this. I've got a minute of it. Right? Run it, just loop it. Ah, all right.
Just press the button. It's fine.
Fucking back off, man. I'll loop this in a second. Jesus Christ. He's just right in his face. It always pisses me off a bit.
Miles Dyson, straight in there. Very good. And Westy, this sequence for you.
It's just everyone's off the bus, and there's just this great moment where Jack's like, "Get on," and he's like, "I can't do this," and I'm thinking, neither could I. I couldn't save you. I would die in an embrace with Sandra Bullock in a burst of flames. The whole thing. And what a way to go! That would be beautiful. But like, there's no way you could just balance on that thing because your feet would. How does it work? It makes no sense. It's just you can't just. But it's wonderful because this is where the music really, really works for me, and this is where the film really just goes. It doesn't matter what you've been thinking. Take reality and throw it out the window because, like, they come out and then the rope slips. They get on that little metal grate or whatever, and it's just that dun 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 dun, and then they come from underneath the bus, and it's that absolute applause of music where it's like. Du, 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 and I cry salt fucking tears every single time I see them just emerge from the bottom of the bus.
It's wonderful.
It's just a wonderful moment. It plays as the ending, and that's really
definitely
good.
does.
I just really would have loved it if the bus had went and just crashed into a plane full of people.
I know. Yeah, that would be wonderful, wouldn't
just
it?
Like all of this is pointless. Like it's all being
It is
planned.
because Jack can't guarantee that plane isn't full of people.
Exactly, and it's just it's so flippant, but so beautifully realized morally. It's just like if you do the right thing, it will be fine, but it won't. No, it won't. You've got to really be careful, and this isn't careful at all.
So that plane we've mentioned, which the bus crashes into, that has a Pacific Courier Freight logo on it. And eagle-eyed viewers may recognise this brand from the truck at the start of Die Hard and the one that gets blown up at the start of Die Hard with a Vengeance. Yeah. And that's because Jackson Degovia was the production designer on all 3 films. So it's basically his trademark.
Yeah, just loads of fun, just blowing stuff up.
Yeah, just blowing shit up. 80 grand, no problem.
Yeah, no peril, just entertainment.
The bus passenger cast said that this explosion was not what they expected, and their stunned reactions are the real deal.
Right.
You singe their eyebrows.
Yeah.
So with Annie and Jack safely off the bus, all's well that ends well. Or is it? Finally released from the clutches of a madman, Jack is on hand to help with the drop, and Annie is close by. For some reason.
Yeah. For some reason.
Don't know why she's hanging on.
I don't know how he's just turned up in the exact crime scene wearing his dress blues. Yeah. And he's fine.
Yeah, so there's a lot of questions to be answered here. We're in the 3rd act, and Westy, you're starting us off.
Yeah. It's just this whole drop sequence. He doesn't know it's exploded. Okay, right, there's this mystery. We get to the point where everyone's like, oh, that money's not moved. So, well, we've got like 27 eyes on this bin or whatever. And it's like, well, no. And then Jack's got to be like, turn it on. Turn it on. That is the most primitive fucking tracking device I've ever seen.
It's and why isn't it already on?
Exactly. Why? Oh, no, we'll turn it on now then. Oh, have you put the money there yet? Turn it on when you put the fucking money in there, dickhead.
You idiots.
It's ridiculous. And then it goes on. It's like, oh, they're in the water. It's like aliens. It's like the whole thing.
It's
like,
horrible.
Beep, beep. Oh, it's moving. And then Jack's like straight over the street. There's no one else who can deal with this apart from Jack, even though everyone's around. And then it's the twist of the whole film, the twist of Speed. And it's up there with like Shawshank Redemption, Sixth Sense, Planet of the Apes. It's Annie. With the detonator strapped to her, and as if he can't fucking tell. Turn around! Like, look at that from the back. Yeah. Amazing. Like, you can tell it's Annie. Like, it's
with a bob.
It's not pain, is it?
No.
Great figure, beautiful. Like, you can tell it's her. She's hunched over, so a little bit worried, and screaming at her. He should have just been like, Annie? Oh, Jesus Christ, right, okay.
Shit, Annie.
Are you okay?
Are you okay?
Annie, are you okay?
Very good.
Take a bow, Matt.
Pain is a smooth criminal. It just gets to that point where it's like, right, okay, and it just starts to just go a little bit too far now.
A little bit. I do like the bit when Payne makes his escape with Annie through the door, and he says, "Goodbye, Jack, punk."
Yeah.
A final hurtful little parting shot.
Punk. That's it.
And this builds up to the demise of Payne, which we've got to talk about this because it's a ludicrous end to a ludicrous character. Like, for all his planning and banging on about how smart he is, he didn't think they'd have a die pack in the money.
I know. Like,
for all his insight that he has, absolute idiot. And remember, when he's running off down that train, I'm coming for you, Jagger! Like, this had to be Hopper's last day on set, and he just didn't give a shit anymore. Not a bit of
first
scenery.
Day on set, probably. He doesn't give a shit anyway.
No, probably not. No scenery left unchewed at this point. And how he gets to the top of the train, still holding onto that trigger, I have no idea.
With one thumb.
Yeah. Like missing a thumb. But okay, fine. But then when you get to the decapitation by the light, I mean, that's ridiculous. You know, no doubting, obviously, it would shatter his skull, probably break his neck, but literally chop his head off in one fell clean swoop.
Yeah.
Like, this is Speed, and this is probably the most ridiculous thing in the film, which says a lot.
Yeah, wow.
And what makes me laugh, though, is that originally the shot of Payne's head being lopped off was a shot from the front, but the dummy head was apparently too realistic and looked disgusting, so they went with the rear shot, which I find very hard to believe. It was too realistic.
Hard to believe. Do you know what I really don't get about this film? It's that last line by Reeves, that last line by Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm taller.
Yeah.
But
doesn't
that mean that you're more likely to get your head cut off?
Yeah.
But he's lying down.
Exactly. It makes no sense.
The line should be something like, yeah, you're also taller, and that's why you've just got your head knocked off. It's like
something like that.
Something like that. They've come to completely the wrong way. So, that line should land, but it doesn't. And then obviously Jack gets his James Bond moment at the end with Annie, where's Payne? Oh, he lost his head. So, ludicrous scene.
Well, after this moment, the runaway train bit, I think, does pull it back.
Do you think?
A little bit.
Okay, a little bit.
I think there's a nice bit of emotion between Jack and Annie. I think Bullock is the one largely responsible for this because you can feel the desperation in her performance.
Yeah.
Jack notices there's a curve ahead. I'm going to speed it up. Terrible delivery.
Why
Terrible.
Why doesn't he just slow it down? If
Yeah,
the
yeah,
thing
slow it
works,
right
slow it
down.
down, mate. Try that
There's
first.
not a bomb on there.
Yeah.
Well, there's bomb on Annie, it's fine.
But this, I think, is a good set piece. It was inspired by Silver Streak from 1976. If you haven't seen it, it's worth a watch. What a treat.
Yeah, nice.
The footage of the train going out of control and the construction workers fleeing for their lives, I do like that. I really like the wheel POV shots of the sparks coming up from the tracks.
Yeah.
There was never any threat of Jack and Annie not making it out alive, but I think de Bont does great job of increasing the jeopardy levels. Impressively, the majority of the footage of the out-of-control train was completed using a scale model,
Yeah.
but it was still a huge undertaking. The train weighed 150 pounds, and it didn't survive the shoot. It was destroyed when the train derailed into the model construction site.
Right.
I really think the footage matches.
Yeah.
I don't think
Totally.
think you can tell that at all.
So the train footage was shot at a high frame rate and then ran through as fast as possible to create the illusion that the train was real and travelling faster than the speeding bullet.
I totally buy it.
Yeah.
The amount of construction that would have to go into that, the money that would have been spent, the time that would have been spent to get that perfect
I think
and
this
get
is
those shots.
it's Jan de Bont's experience, isn't it? Like no one can do that. And no one can pull that off by doing it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Captured similar things with scale models on Die Hard.
Yeah.
And at the end of the line, an old bus was dressed up to look like a train carriage when it crosses onto Hollywood Boulevard.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's I mean,
it's mental. It's mental.
cheesy ending.
Yeah.
It did stand out to me that 2001 is playing in the Chinese theatre in that scene. And de Bont's a big Stanley Kubrick fan and tries to get a reference into all of his films.
Right.
That's why The Shining's playing at the drive-in theatre on Twister as
Oh,
well.
of course, yes. Yeah.
Big fan.
Yeah.
So by the end, Jack and Annie are in each other's arms as a crowd gathers in amazement. A true Hollywood ending.
Yeah.
Reception and awards.
Not much was expected from Speed upon release, but that all changed after test screenings. It was a mega hit, and when audience members walked backwards up the aisle mid-film towards the toilet to miss as little action as possible, Fox decided to move the release from August to July.
Wow.
Nice.
They were confident in it going up against City Slickers 2. This also convinced them to shell out more money for the finale on the train, footage which was missing in test screenings because it had ran over budget.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so despite going up against a film with an established fan base, Speed hugely outperformed City Slickers 2, earning $350 million just from a $30 million budget, and that made it the highest grossing film of the year.
Massive. We don't necessarily always talk about the highest grossing films of the year, so it's quite a feat, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Coincidentally, Beth Grant, who plays Helen in this, she's also in City Slickers 2.
She is.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I like City Slickers too, by the way. And City
Wow.
Slickers.
Were you the one?
I am. I like
Are you the established fan base?
the legend of Curly's Gold. Yeah, I do like it.
From a critical point of view, Speed knocked it out of the park. Rolling Stone said, Speed works like a charm. It's a reminder of how much movie escapism can stir us when it's dished out with this kind of dazzle. Entertainment Weekly gave it an A and said it's a pleasure to be in the hands of an action filmmaker who respects the audience. De Bont's craftsmanship is so supple that even the triple ending feels justified, like the cataclysmic final stage of a Sega deathmatch.
Wow, that's very 1994.
Isn't it? The New Scientist gave it a 5-star review.
Another New Scientist review.
Not really.
Ah! I fell for that hook, line, and sinker as well. Shit.
And finally, Roger Ebert. What do you think? The big RE gave it out of 4.
I reckon he
2.5.
would love this, you know. I
you
reckon,
reckon?
I reckon he's all in on the concept. I reckon he gave it the full.
Right, okay. Based on the concept, 3 for me.
3 for you, 4 for you, Matt. Matt, you're right. It's 4 for 4.
Oh, oof.
Yes.
Massive.
He said, films like Speed belong to the genre I call bruised forearm movies because you're always grabbing the arm of the person sitting next to you. He says, done wrong, they seem like tired replays of old chase cliches. Done well, they're fun. Done as well as Speed, they generate a kind of manic exhilaration.
Yeah, exactly.
And now Speed has an outrageous 95% on Rotten Tomatoes and an IMDb score of 7.3 out of 10.
It's a great film.
Oh, it is. It's wonderful.
It made a number of critics' end of the year top 10 lists, and it picked up an impressive haul at award season. Bullock won Best Actress at the Saturn Awards. The film won Best Sound at the BAFTAs and Best Sound and Best Sound Effects Editing at the Oscars.
I mean, you wouldn't pin this as a kind of an awards darling, would you?
An Oscar-winning film?
Yeah.
Mental.
Crazy.
Brilliant.
What I find quite surprising is that it was also nominated for Best Film, Best Actress and Best Actor at the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Award.
I believe that.
I just don't think it's appropriate. Speed was so popular with one fan who set up a Kickstarter campaign around 10 years ago, and his goal was to own as many copies of the Speed VHS as possible.
I've seen that, yeah, it's amazing.
Ultimately, to own every copy in the world.
Right.
And what he would do with them is really unclear, but it concerns decorating his bus in the VHS and touring the world. Like a really strange man. I don't think he was successful in his Kickstarter bid, but check him out if you want to.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd love to send him that shit copy we had.
Yeah, the blurry one.
Yeah, stick that in there.
So a huge hit on all fronts for Speed, and I'm going to sign off with a quote from Sandra Bullock, who said, "I don't think anyone had any idea what was going to happen. I certainly didn't feel it. I think we sort of were ridiculed for being the low-budget bomb on a bus movie. Not that I cared. I was just so happy to have a job and that I got to work with Keanu."
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Of course. I'm sure we'd all feel the same.
Yeah, definitely.
Sequels and influence.
Based on the positive test scored for Speed, a sequel was discussed prior to release and announced a week after.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. Massive.
Yeah, there were reportedly hundreds of ideas for the sequel, including one from Graham Yost, who pitched a plane flying through the Andes, but it can't go above 10,000 feet.
Graham.
Give
You
it a
hit gold
rest.
once, mate.
Yeah.
Go on. In the end, though, he wasn't even consulted for the sequel, and de Bont went with his own idea, and he based that on a recurring nightmare he was having about a ship crashing into an island, and if all things had gone to plan with the casting, the film would have seen Jack and Annie married, and it takes place on their honeymoon.
Unfortunately for everyone involved, Keanu Reeves decided to jump ship, no pun intended, and didn't
See what
return
you
for the
done there.
sequel. Decided again instead to play Hamlet, which is probably why he's reading it in
Yeah, of
Winnipeg
course.
before filming The Devil's Advocate.
He wasn't contractually obliged to return for cruise control. The only person who was Jan de Bont.
Right.
Reeves passed because he had issues with the script and the fact that the boat goes slower than the bus in the original.
Of course it does.
It's in the title,
It's
cruise
not
control.
a speedboat, is it?
Yeah. I imagine that subtitle was added to manage audience expectations after execs had seen the film and said, shit, it's really slow, this.
Isn't Speedboat a better title?
Speedboat. Much, I mean,
Like,
it is.
Speed
It
2,
is. You're right.
Speedboat.
You're absolutely. Yeah.
It's better than Minimum Speed.
It certainly is.
Yeah, and Fox was so angry that Reeves didn't return that they blamed him for the film's poor box office return, and to the extent that they blacklisted him from any future Fox productions, and that lasted until 2008 when he starred in the remake of The Day the Earth Stood Still.
You know, that's absolute bullshit. You're not in this, so it's your fault.
Yeah.
That's fucking
Spiteful.
ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. You've got nothing to do with it, and it's your fault it failed. Like, that's ludicrous. But Sandra
ridiculous.
Bullock was paid around $12 million to return and took it as a trade-off with Fox so they would fund her passion project, Hope Floats.
Adding Keanu's place, we got Jason Patrick. Now there's a trade.
Oh, God.
And so Speed 2 Cruise Control was released in theaters in June 97, and the reviews were not kind.
Nope.
No.
New York Daily News said that it was an ear-splitting amusement park attraction posing as a movie.
Right.
On Rotten Tomatoes, it has 4% and a wince-inducing 3.9 out of 10 on IMDb.
It's not good.
Yeah, 4%. Yeah. That is despite Siskel and Ebert giving it 2 thumbs up, saying it was a truly rousing ocean liner adventure story.
Right.
Really?
Wow.
Those bastards cannot be trusted.
No, they can't be trusted. Jesus
With
Christ,
anything.
what are they talking about? I mean, Defoe's great in it, but he's just wildly Defoe, isn't he?
Ludicrous.
Very much so.
Yeah, more importantly, what is the ATRM verdict on the sequel, Matt?
Do you know what? Even at the time, the reviews were so bad, I didn't bother going to see it. I just had no interest.
Nope.
And quite honestly, I've only seen, I think, the first half of it since, got a halfway through. I was like, nah, this is not good.
No, it's terrible. I did the same thing. Terrible. I remember it got terrible reviews, and I only watched it last week.
All of it?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
Well
generally
done.
considered one of the worst sequels ever made, and I really don't think that's a stretch. It is, I mean, to be fair to it, it's a huge spectacle. The budget was over $100 million.
It was, yeah.
crazy. 100 to 160 according to reports.
Wow.
You can see where the majority of it's spent, but it is just very boring with no tension.
No.
And that's on pretty much everything. Screenplay, direction, runtime, the slow moving boat, the cast. Oh,
yeah. No chemistry
terrible.
in this cast.
No chemistry.
No.
There's no sense of threats. And when the concept of the original starts to feel believable, you know you're in real trouble.
Yeah.
Defoe is, I think, a pale imitation of Dennis Hopper's maniacal bad guy. And he is annoying at the start of the film and is relegated to nothing more than half a sidekick. And I think it starts off really bafflingly and doesn't recover because part of the opening scene is Annie taking her driving test.
Yeah.
And she's worryingly incompetent behind the wheel, despite just driving a bus in the first one very competently.
Yeah.
Jason Patrick, bland as bland can be.
Yeah.
And if it couldn't get any worse, UB40 show up.
Oh, they do, don't they? God.
Not just in the soundtrack, in person.
On the boat,
On the boat.
Yeah.
Unforgivable.
What the fuck?
No.
Yeah, so not good. What about you, Westy?
I mean, no.
Just no.
I was excited about seeing it. I was excited about revisiting it, but I think it just, now that I've thought about it, it's like, this is what Jan de Bont is as a director. When a real director would get something out of this, he needs a lot of building blocks to become a director. He needs a lot of peril. He needs a lot of visual excitement. He needs a twister in the air. He needs the bus to be going. Once he's got character and development and relationships, he's just like, oh, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Is there an elevator shaft on this cruise liner? Because I'm fucked otherwise. And that's kind of how it seems. He's not a director of actors. He's a director of set pieces. He's very visual director. And Speed and Twister are wonderful films, but very, very lucky to exist.
Naturally, the balance was tipped back into the positive with a classic Father Ted episode in Speed 3.
Yep.
A billion times better than Cruise Control.
Not seen that.
Oh, wow.
That's incredible.
In it, a milk float is rigged with a bomb that will go off if the float goes below 4 miles an hour. A nice little ribbon of the premise of the sequel, I think. And in the year since its release, I'm sure that you'll agree that it has been an influential film.
Oh, absolutely.
Where do we see Speed's influence? And, I mean, where do you start with it? We mentioned imitators. The list goes on. Under Siege, Sudden Death, Cliffhanger, Passenger 57, Con Air. But I think if you don't have Reeves in Speed, you don't have Reeves in The Matrix.
True.
One of the most influential films of the last 25 years.
Absolutely.
And if you don't get that, then the ripple effect would be huge.
Yeah.
And the
No
movie
John Wick.
landscape would look quite different.
Yeah.
Exactly. No John Wick. Yeah.
No John Wick, absolutely, yeah. And so I think he gets a bad rap, but even us. But huge influence on the action genre, Wick, Point Break, this, and the sci-fi genre with The Matrix. So I think it's had a huge impact on Keanu Reeves and the landscape of cinema over the last 25 years.
Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. And I think he gets a bad rap, but I think he only gets a bad rap from us on a textbook level of this is what you should be like as an actor. And maybe Keanu Reeves has got it right and we've got it so wrong.
Oh, absolutely.
Because he's living it fucking large.
Of course, he's living it large and we're the idiots.
Done it massively and we're sitting going, I don't really think he should have been able to do that because his line delivery's not very good. And we're sitting here on a Sunday night doing a fucking podcast on someone who's absolutely lapping it up with a millionaire.
Yeah, I think it's legacy. I disagree with everything you guys have said, all the films that have come after. I think what's interesting to me, though, is that it's one of those properties, and we live in an age where nothing is sacred. There hasn't been any further sequels. There's not been a reboot. No. There's not been a remake, because I think its legacy is that I think everyone looks at it and goes, you just can't improve that concept. You wouldn't be able to do what it does better.
What's the point?
So, that establishing Reeves, I would say, as a bona fide action star, really launching Sandra Bullock's career, and also gave one of the all-time great Simpsons jokes when Homer tries to explain the plot and goes, I think it was called The Bus That Couldn't Slow Down.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
Brilliant. We must be thankful for that.
Got to be.
So, avoid the sequel and most of the knockoffs. They don't hold a candle to Speed, which still sits as one of the best action movies of the era, or any era for that matter.
It's the OG.
All the Right Movies ranking.
We finally made it to safety, but there is still time for the All the Right Movies ranking, where we summarise and score Speed out of 10.
Sure.
So, Matt, it's over to you.
Okay. Loads of fun. And I've thoroughly enjoyed talking about this for you too. It's been an absolute ball, this one.
It's been good.
Very, very 90s. You can't imagine 90s action cinema without this. And it deserves its reputation that it has, quite frankly, because it stands up so well. And I think the reason it stands up so well is that middle third, because that's where that amazing concept just comes to life. You can tell de Bont loves that idea. He runs with it, and he's got Reeves and Bullock, who are both so watchable, but it is only the middle third. The build-up to it is really good, and I do like that, but at some point, the characters have to get off the bus. We have to get off the bus. The film has to get off the bus, and there's an undeniable dip in quality when it does happen. It's fine, but it's just nowhere near as good as what's come before. And Hopper's performance is a lot to take at times, entertaining, but a lot. So if I could rank everything on the bus by itself, it'd be an easy 10, but I have to take everything into consideration, so it evens out at an 8.5.
8.5 out of 10. Still a damn good score.
Really good score, yeah.
Well, I won't argue that it's not a no-holds-barred, adrenaline-fueled thrill ride. Obviously, white-knuckle stuff never lets up. And on a surface level, I think it is pretty amazing. Great work by de Bont, great editing, and Bullock's irresistible.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think the writing is up to much apart from that killer concept. No. And I think it's a miracle that the film exists at all, considering the changes that were made leading up to the shoot and during, for that matter. I have to compare it to other movies in the genre, and obviously it's nowhere near as good as the big boys like Die Hard, Lethal Weapon, even Predator. I think the dialogue is clunky in parts, and there's no real emotion or threat running through it.
Yeah, I get that, yeah.
Look at the emotion in Lethal Weapon. Look at the emotion in Die Hard.
Yeah.
So a great film, but to a point. So I'm giving it an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
Safe as houses. And Westy, your summary and score for Speed.
I didn't want to take the nostalgia out of it because that's such an important part about films. It's such an important part about movies, and it's such an important part about what we talk about and how we've bonded on something. This film for me really hit home when I was a kid, when I was 13 years old, and it really hits home with my kid who's 7, and he watches this and he gets so excited about it because it's not boring, in his words. Dad, can you make sure your friends don't swear on the episode because I want to listen to it? And I was like, I can't promise that. I can't fucking promise that because I swear more than anyone else. Exactly.
I know, twice.
I swear more than anyone else, so you can't listen to it. But he's so excited that I was going to talk about this film. He's really excited about it. And he loves the film. And I love the film. You're right. The middle third is perfect. That's what the film was. Yeah, it's great. It's let down at the start for me, and it's let down at the end for me because it kind of comes and goes and doesn't quite know where it is. So I can't give it a top score. I'm never, ever going to give it a perfect score, but it's always something I'll come back to. It's always something I enjoy. For me, it's a very, very honest 8.5 as a film, but in my heart, it's a 10, but it's an 8.5 that I've got to put on the podcast. Definitely.
Well, very honest. Yes. Yeah, fair enough. We have our scores, but we have a fourth score for Speed, and that comes from our ever-faithful, ever-growing, ever-dependable Twitter faithful.
Yes.
Ex-faithful now.
Oh, yeah.
I have the score, but I've got some choice comments before we reveal that big score.
Okay.
First review comes from Thomas Millman at 7timestorm, who said, is it just an action thriller? Well, yes, obviously. But Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock, Dennis Hopper and Jeff Daniels show that when actors take a thriller seriously, glorious things happen. This is a great thriller. Is it high art? Maybe not, but it made for great drama.
Okay.
Yeah, very nice indeed. From Wire Blue at Piss Peru.
Wow. Okay.
Don't Get Dead, 10 out of 10.
We should have just read that out and saved ourselves like 2 hours.
Yeah. Short and sweet.
Lovely.
All right.
From Hugh Parker at Hugh HP 1970, he said, I give it an 8. Dropping a point for cliched closing scene of Reeves and Bullock going at it in a train wreck on the streets. For God's sake, get a room. Other than that, it's a brilliantly tense 2 hours where every actor does exactly what they need to keep it skipping along.
Okay. Yeah. Skipping along. Yeah. Okay.
And finally, a negative comment from Alex at Alex_B_83, who said, at the time 9, now 4. It has not aged well at all.
Oh. That's a shame.
Harsh from Alex.
That is a shame.
Wow.
But you've got to have your critics.
Oh, you've got to have. Did he get the copy that we first saw and he's watched that now?
Yeah, that hasn't aged well. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, he's got the pirated version.
Still on VHS.
Imagine. I'd love to still have that.
So out of 10, what do you think Speed got on Twitter?
I think he got an 8/X.
8.
9. I'll go 9.
9. Oh, you're both wrong. Westy's closer. It was a slightly disappointing 7.5 out of 10.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Okay.
Surprised by that.
All right.
I think similar to us, they maybe compare it to others in the genre and kind of taking it down a few notches because of that.
It's a hard film to admit that you like because people think you're a fucking moron.
But we can go highbrow and we can go lowbrow as well.
Exactly.
We've said we've admitted liking worse, let's face it.
I love it for what it is. I love it for what it is. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So that means that overall Speed scored 32.5 out of 40. I suppose I'm not surprised by that. It's a decent score for a film that is not necessarily elite level in the genre.
Yeah.
You can see how Speed fares against all the other films that we've talked about on our classic podcasts. You go to alltherightmovies.com/leaderboard.
Yeah.
Join us again on All the Right Movies when we'll be taken to the open seas on Peter Weir's Master and Commander, a surprise but worthy winner of the poll. Excited for that one, fellas?
Very. I don't think I can think of a film more different to Speed in terms of tone and execution than Master and Commander.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's one I still have not seen, so I'm going to be checking that out.
Coming in blind.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to really get involved in this. I've heard very good things about it. Matt likes it. John likes it.
It's got a fervent fan base, hasn't it?
It's one that's slipped by me, but I will definitely get involved and see what all the fuss is about. I'm looking forward to it.
Can't wait to hear it. And for our Director's Chair tier patrons, the three of us here will be talking about Anne Hathaway in The Dark Knight Rises and Interstellar, which will be available next Friday. So sign up to become an ATRM patron for that. Yes. And everything mentioned at the top, that will be fireworks. I'm certain.
It'll be a beautiful episode.
Big opinions coming on that. Big opinions.
It's going to be great. It's going to be
Two
great.
big films.
Yeah.
That is patreon.com/alltherightmovies. You can also buy our podcasts individually on our website, alltherightmovies.com, and you can subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts for the Classic Podcast Archive. We are all over the place.
We are.
Definitely, yeah.
Just like Harry after he gets blown up.
Mopping them up with a sponge.
Yep.
Yeah.
And please keep up to date with us on social media as well. On X, we are at ATRightMovies. We've got behind-the-scenes stories, behind-the-scenes pictures, behind-the-scenes interviews. We've got it all, and we obviously have our amazing movie threads, making of movie threads.
Yes.
Just like the podcasts and the things that you've heard today, all the information comes directly from the cast and crew or is corroborated by at least 3 sources. So keep checking back regularly for more verified information.
Yes. No, definitely. Yeah, the more that people check that out, the better.
Absolutely.
It's all
Please
great
devour
stuff.
them.
Yeah.
On Instagram and Threads, we are at @allthe_rightmovies. On TikTok, we are at @alltherightmovies. We have our Facebook group, which, I mean, if you're not there, I don't know why. If you're on Facebook and you're not in our group, there's something seriously gone wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
We are on YouTube as well. If you could watch our videos, like our videos, comment on our videos, that would be much appreciated.
Definitely.
That is youtube.com/alltherightmovies. And if you did enjoy this show and you do love our podcast, it would be wonderful if you could spare some time and give us a rating on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. 5 stars all the way, would you say?
What's the point in anything?
What is the point?
It's a waste of time, a waste of effort. Yeah. If you want to go on there and check out the reviews, we've got a lot of people who are very, very happy with the content. So why not just be one of them?
Yeah, exactly.
Why not join the, just join in?
Ignore the one, well, you don't need to ignore the one that says slap a parental guidance warning on us. We're not Prince.
No.
We're not Public Enemy.
We're definitely not Prince. I can say that much about us.
And if you've got this far, then I think you'll be fine with the way that we talk.
Yes.
Yeah.
At our website, the ATRM hub is alltherightmovies.com. Lots of All the Right Movies stuff to get into there, so please enjoy it. And that is a wrap. Hopefully we'll get more than a cheap gold watch for our efforts on this one.
Well, we'll see. Yep. Kind of cheesy.
Yeah. We're off for a coffee and a muffin. It is 5 minutes past 8.
Okay.
Come back in 2 weeks for Master and Commander, everyone. Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks, guys.
Please do. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one, Bob.